Chapter 3385. Countless experts in the sorcerer god city fell silent. They looked at Wu Xinya's torn right arm with complicated expressions. The situation had changed too quickly. They did not even have time to react. Wu Xinye roared. He was unwilling to give up, but the statues of the 12 ancestral shamans would not give him any chance to catch his breath. One after another, fierce attacks were launched at Wu Xinye. Although Wu Xinya raised his hand to block, he still spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale and his aura was weak. Zhuowen threw away Wu Xinya's right arm. He looked down at Wu Xinya and said, "Wu Xinya, submit to me and I will spare your life." Poochie. At this moment, Wu Xinya was hit again. He spat out a mouthful of blood and his expression was ugly. Wu Xinya's eyes were filled with hatred. He glared at Zhuowen and took out a blood-red compass from his spiritual ring. "Long Wen, just wait and see. The day I make a comeback will be the day you die." Wu Xinya took out the blood-red compass. The compass spun rapidly and a blazing blood-red light enveloped Wu Xinya. Boom, boom, boom. The attacks from the 12 statues arrived and smashed onto Wu Xinya's body. However, the moment the attacks landed on Wu Xinya's body, Wu Xinya disappeared. The compass that was floating in the air also shattered. Zhuowen squinted his eyes and looked towards the inner city. He realized that Wu Xinya had already landed on the inner city wall. At this moment, the experts of the sorcerer tribe in the inner city were all gathered on the city wall. The protective array of the inner city had already been activated. Powerful ripples of array Dao spread out, shocking everyone's hearts. Zhuowen sighed. He knew that after Wu Xinya entered the inner city, he would no longer have the chance to kill him. The inner city of the sorcerer god city was the true core of the sorcerer tribe. The forbidden array here had been accumulated over countless years. Even if Zhuowen entered the inner city, not only would he not be able to break the array, he might even be trapped inside and die. Moreover, there were many experts in the sorcerer tribe. If he barged in and was trapped in the formation, he would definitely be besieged by countless experts of the sorcerer tribe. At that time, even if he had 3 heads and 6 arms, he would still die inside. However, he was not afraid in the outer city. After all, if he could not defeat them, he could escape. Moreover, he had obtained the statues of the 12 ancestors of sorcery. If the sorcerer tribe warriors dared to leave the inner city to kill him, they would all die. After Wu Xinye landed on the inner city wall, 2 sorcerer tribe experts immediately came forward to support him. "Holy Lord, why don't you let us go as well? We have so many experts in the sorcerer tribe. If we attack together, even if Long Wen has the ability to reach the heavens, he will still have to bow down." One of the experts from the sorcerer tribe said indignantly. When they saw Wu Xinye being suppressed, they asked Wu Xinye to help them, but they were rejected by Wu Xinye. Without Wu Xinye's permission, they didn't dare to act on their own. They could only watch as Wu Xinye was beaten to such a state. This expert from the sorcerer tribe couldn't help but suggest to Wu Xinye to send out the experts from the sorcerer tribe to take down Long Wen. "If you want to die, I won't stop you." As for the other disciples of the sorcerer tribe, they are not allowed to leave the inner city. I don't know what method Long Wen used to control the statues of the 12 ancestors of sorcery. You also know how powerful the statues of the 12 ancestors of sorcery are. Even at my peak, I didn't dare to fight against the statues of the 12 ancestors of sorcery, let alone you. No matter how many experts you send out, you will only be cannon fodder. Wu Xinye said with a gloomy expression. He wasn't afraid of Long Wen, but he was afraid of the statues of the 12 ancestors of sorcery. "Holy Lord, what should we do? Are we going to let Long Wen run rampant in front of us while we let him do whatever he wants? This is the sorcerer god city. If he causes trouble here, he is slapping us in the face." The expert from the sorcerer tribe sighed. Wu Xinye's gaze was gloomy as he looked at the green hat wearing a black robe below the city wall. He said, "Senior, the 3 ancestors of sorcery should be on Long Wen. Don't you need the ancestors of sorcery's corpses?" Green Hat crossed his arms. When he heard Wu Xinye's words, he laughed. "What? Wu Xinye, You were beaten up like a stray dog and ran away in embarrassment. Now you want me to help you settle this? Wu Shenye hurriedly cupped his hands and said, Shenye doesn't dare. Shenye is just fighting for senior. The 3 ancestors of sorcery's corpses belong to our sorcerer tribe. Shenye originally wanted to give them to senior. However, this Long Wen interfered and openly took the 3 ancestors of sorcery's corpses. Shenye used all my strength to take the corpses for senior. Unfortunately, Shenye is useless and is not Long Wen's opponent. I have let senior down. Green Hat coldly laughed. He didn't care about Wu Shenye's hypocrisy and said indifferently, although your words have no sincerity, you are right about one thing. I have great use for the 3 ancestors of sorcery's corpses and Long Wen is also very useful to me. This brat dared to take my things, so he must pay the price. This price is related to his life. After saying this, Green Hat took a step forward and rushed towards Zhuowen. Wu Shenye looked at Green Hat's departing figure and let out a light sigh. A smile appeared on his face. He knew that Green Hat's strength had definitely reached the half-step heaven-breaking realm. Moreover, he was a supreme expert who had experienced the 5 decay of heaven. With such an expert taking action, Long Wen was dead for sure. Zhuowen seemed to have sensed something. He raised his head and looked at Green Hat who was slowly walking over. His gaze instantly became gloomy. Brat, you're really cunning enough. You were actually able to escape my imprisonment. I forgot that you're also a powerful divine array master. I miscalculated. Green Hat floated several hundred meters away from Zhuowen and calmly looked at Zhuowen. His ancient and hoarse voice slowly sounded. The foreign race experts in Sorcerer God City were still in shock from the battle. Now that they saw a mysterious black-robed person appear, and it seemed like he wanted to oppose Long Wen, they all revealed astonished expressions. Who is this person? Is he planning to challenge Long Wen? Is he courting death? There's something wrong with this person's head. Didn't he see how terrifying Long Wen's performance was? Even the Holy Lord of the Sorcerer race was heavily injured by him and could only run into the inner city with his tail between his legs. This guy still dares to come out and challenge him. His guts aren't ordinary. What guts? This guy is obviously looking for death. Many of the foreign race experts in Sorcerer God City roared with laughter. They felt that the black-robed person had come here to seek death. Everyone subconsciously thought that Zhuowen was already the strongest person in Sorcerer God City. In their hearts, Zhuowen had already become the symbol of invincibility. Even Wu Shenye had been defeated by this brat. Who else could be his match? Moreover, this guy had the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues. His strength had reached a new level. Even if Wu Shenye was at his peak, he would probably have to retreat and not dare to face the powerful Long Wen. However, the patriarchs of the Moon Wolf race, Giant Turtle race, and other super races all frowned when they saw the black-robed person. They felt a terrifying aura from Green Hat's body. Chapter 3386. Half-step to break the heavens. Zhuowen stood on the shoulder of an ancestral sorcerer statue and looked at Green Hat with fear. He said in a deep voice, Green Hat, you and I have minded our own business. There is no need for us to fight. Why don't you go your own way and I go mine? What do you say? You are right. Your progress is too fast. Even I feel that it is inconceivable. How about this? Hand over the 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses and the Pangu banner on you. I will not make things difficult for you and will let you leave. Also, don't give me random names. I don't like being called Green Hat. Green Hat said indifferently. Zhuowen sneered and said, 3 ancestral sorcerer corpses and the Pangu banner. Green Hat, your appetite is really big. It seems like you don't want to cooperate. What a pity. You and I can only fight. Green Hat shook his head and sighed. He continued, Zhuowen, you should know that my strength is far above Wu Shenya's. Your Pangu sacred body is indeed powerful, but unfortunately, it is only at the middle of the 8-star level. The gap between us is too big. If you fight with me, you will die. I am doing this for your own good. Hand over the Pangu banner and the ancestral sorcerer corpses and I will not deal with you in the future. I can even guarantee that your future path will be smooth and bright. Zhuowen sneered again and again. He did not believe Green Hat's words. At the same time, Zhuowen was very afraid. This Green Hat was able to see through his Pangu sacred body and its level. It was obvious that this guy had some understanding of the Pangu sacred body. He was also very curious in his heart. Just who was this Green Hat? He knew too many things, and his strength was so terrifying. Could it be that this guy was really a creature from the beginning of the world, and had lived until now? Let's fight. I want to see just how strong you are, and the gap between us. Zhuowen licked his lips. The battle intent in his eyes was like a blazing sun that slowly burned. You really don't know what death is. How dare you challenge my pressure? Zhuowen, you will die miserably. Green Hat sneered. Suddenly, a terrifying green light erupted from his body. The black robe that wrapped around his body was directly torn to shreds by the powerful energy, revealing his mummified body. The green light was too strong. It illuminated the sky and covered the entire Sorcerer God City in green. Even the line of sight was green. The moment the green light covered the entire Sorcerer God City, the Green Hat moved as well. He swept out without a trace. Zhuowen did not even see the figure of green light clearly. His pupils shrank as he discovered that the 12 ancestral sorcerer statues around him had begun to collapse and crumble. In the end, they shattered into countless fine powder. The ancestral sorcerer statue beneath Zhuowen's feet also collapsed. Zhuowen stomped his foot and left the area of the ancestral sorcerer statue. However, at this very moment, an unprecedented sense of danger rose in Zhuowen's mind. Soon after, he sensed a frightening astral wind rumbling towards him from behind. This gust of wind was too strong. It constantly swept out and blew Zhuowen's hair, causing Zhuowen to be in a mess. Zhuowen's expression changed drastically. He only had time to use the profound creation mysterious light and concentrate it on his back. The white light formed an oval light shield. Bang! The light shield suffered a heavy blow. Zhuowen was affected by the aftershock and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, during this gap, Zhuowen's speed was extremely fast. He quickly fell from the sky. At the same time, the light shield shattered and a ferocious green claw swept out. Zhuowen just happened to dodge this green claw. Bang! Zhuowen's feet landed on the ground. He looked at the green-haired mummy that appeared where he was with lingering fear. This Green Hat was too fast. He appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Zhuowen couldn't see his exact whereabouts. Thinking of this, a pair of huge illusory eyes rose behind Zhuowen. It was the Torch Dragon's eyes. The moment he used the Torch Dragon's eyes, Zhuowen's vision suddenly widened. He could also barely see Green Hat's figure. Bang! Suddenly, Green Hat had already swept in front of him. Zhuowen suddenly punched out. Boom! 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 The two fists collided and a terrifying wave spread out. Immediately, Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. His face turned pale and bloodless, and he retreated repeatedly. Zhuowen stabilized his body and saw Green Hat standing in the same place, motionless and looking at him strangely. Torch Dragon's eyes. It seems that you can see through my movement skill. How rare. But it doesn't matter. Today, you are destined to die here. Green Hat sneered and shook his head. He stomped his feet and rushed out. With a thunderous sound, he attacked Zhuowen again. Bang! 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 Zhuowen and Green Hat collided, and he was sent flying again. Moreover, he continued to retreat. At this moment, Zhuowen finally knew how big the gap was between him and Green Hat. This was like a child fighting with an adult. They were not on the same level at all. Zhuowen was being suppressed too severely. Bang! Zhuowen spat out a mouthful of blood. His chest had been struck by a punch. Countless cracks began to appear on his crystalline body. It was as if he had been shattered into pieces. He looked very miserable. Sparkling blood splattered, making Zhuowen look very wretched. And this scene stunned all the foreign race elites in Sorcerer God City. What kind of situation was this? The arrogant Long Wen was actually being suppressed by this mysterious person who had suddenly appeared. In fact, He was even being beaten into an extremely wretched state. Just how powerful was this mysterious person? This mysterious person is definitely an elite who has surpassed the peak of the sky-piercing master. He is very likely a supreme elite who is half a step into the shattering heaven realm. What? A half step into the shattering heaven realm elite? Don't elites of this level basically not appear in the world? Why is he interfering with the sorcerer tribe's matters now? Who knows? It is very likely that he is some hidden elite of the sorcerer tribe. This long when offended such an elite. He is finished. After the foreign race elites in Sorcerer God City saw through Green Hat's strength, they started to not have much hope for Zhuowen. The gap between the two of them was really too big. Bang! Green Hat rushed over again. Zhuowen swayed and could only raise his hands to block Green Hat's attack. Catcher! Zhuowen's hands were directly broken, and he was sent flying. His entire body was already covered in blood. It was very wretched. Whoosh! While Zhuowen's body was still in midair, his eyes slowly opened, and he saw Green Hat rushing over. Zhuowen, do you have any last words? If not, you can go on your way. A trace of a sinister smile appeared on Green Hat's face. His right hand formed a claw, and he suddenly clawed at Zhuowen's heart. Zhuowen looked at the claw that was getting closer and closer, and he was very unwilling in his heart. With a roar, an extremely terrifying aura burst forth from his body. All the blood in his body was boiling, and the ruptured blood quickly condensed. A blazing light exploded in his body. Green Hat's pupils constricted. In a moment of carelessness, he was hit by this light and was sent flying back repeatedly. Chapter 3387. Pangu's shadow Wu Shinya stood on top of the inner city wall like a boulder. He looked at Zhuowen, who was being suppressed by Green Hat, and his eyes were filled with delight. Long Wen, you're just an ant in front of this senior. You're dead. Wu Shinya muttered to himself. His tone was filled with regret. He regretted that he couldn't kill Long Wen with his own hands. However, to be able to see Zhuowen suffer, Wu Shinya was very happy. He couldn't wait for Zhuowen to be completely destroyed by the cuckold. However, Wu Shinya soon discovered that something was wrong. In the distance, Green Hat, who had been planning to kill Long Wen, was sent flying by a wave of energy. Soon after, he saw Zhuowen's body explode with a dazzling light. A vast and terrifying aura spread out like a tide. Even Wu Shinya felt that it was inconceivable. What's going on? Why is Long Wen emitting such a terrifying aura? This. Wu Shinya's body trembled. He felt a terrifying threat from this aura. It wasn't just Wu Shinya. All the foreign race experts in Witch God City felt their hearts skip a beat when they felt this terrifying aura. They quickly distanced themselves from Zhuowen. They discussed spiritedly. They didn't know what had happened to Zhuowen's body to cause such a terrifying aura to explode out. Green Hat retreated a few hundred meters away. His eyes narrowed as he stared at Zhuowen, who was emitting a dazzling light. His expression was very serious. Countless rays of light shot up into the sky and gathered together, forming a huge shadow that stood between the heavens and the earth. This enormous figure was naked from the waist up. Its entire body was translucent like glass. Although this figure was very blurry, its glass-like luster made it extremely eye-catching and dazzling. Especially the terrifying aura emitted by this figure. It was as if countless mountains were crushing down, spreading throughout Witch God City. All the foreign race experts in Witch God City couldn't withstand this powerful aura and knelt on the ground. Even the patriarchs of the Moon Wolf clan, Giant Tortoise clan, and the rest of the 10 great clans couldn't breathe under this pressure. They groaned and knelt on one knee. As for those who weren't strong enough, they were all heavily injured and unconscious. Zhuowen slowly floated at the chest of this huge and terrifying glass figure. His body was still riddled with wounds, dripping with blood, and his face was even paler. Is this the Pangu shadow, the ultimate power of the Pangu banner? So powerful. Zhuowen covered his chest as he felt the horrifying aura released by the shadow. His expression changed slightly as he was shocked. At the same time, his expression was very ugly. He found that when he cast the Pangu silhouette, The spirit blood of his Pangu sacred body was boiling and being consumed, as if it was being absorbed by the Pangu silhouette. Zhuoan knew that the Pangu sacred body's spirit blood was needed to maintain the Pangu silhouette. He was already heavily injured to begin with, and now that his blood essence was being continuously absorbed, his aura began to weaken, making him look battered and exhausted. I must end this quickly. Zhuoan stared at Green Hat, who was not far away, with a look of fear in his eyes. He secretly took out the blood-colored token, and with a thought, the Pangu silhouette moved. Boom, 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 boom. The Pangu silhouette suddenly punched out with its right hand, causing the air to explode, and set off a terrifying energy ripple towards Green Hat. Green Hat's expression darkened. He didn't expect that Zhuoan would be able to summon the Pangu silhouette. Boom. Green Hat punched out and collided with the Pangu silhouette's right hand. A terrifying shockwave spread out, and everything within a radius of a few hundred miles was turned into ruins. Seeing this, the experts of the Sorcerer God City were all scared to death. They struggled to leave the city. Zhuoan and Green Hat's attacks were becoming more and more terrifying. They wanted to destroy the entire Sorcerer God City. In the inner city, Sorcerer God Ya's expression turned ugly as he watched the buildings within a radius of a few hundred miles turn into ruins. Sorcerer God City was the #1 divine city in the primitive heaven domain. In order to build this city, countless precious materials had been used, making the city's defenses extremely sturdy. Ordinary energy couldn't break through the city at all. Even a supreme expert from the sky-piercing realm would find it difficult to destroy the city. Previously, when Zhuoan fought against dozens of sky-piercing realm experts, although the shockwaves from the battle were terrifying, it didn't cause any large-scale destruction. On the other hand, Zhuoan had summoned Pangu's shadow to fight Green Hat. With just a single strike, it had caused such terrifying destruction. It could be seen just how terrifying the destructive energy the two of them had mobilized was. Boom. Boom. The battle between the Pangu silhouette and Green Hat became more and more intense. In just a short period of time, the entire outer city of Sorcerer God City was destroyed. Most of the experts of the Sorcerer God City had already left the city. Looking at the ruins of the outer city, they were all shocked. They couldn't believe that the #1 divine city of the primitive heaven domain had been destroyed to this extent. Moreover, they noticed that the battle between the Pangu silhouette and Green Hat was moving towards the inner city. Seeing this scene, Wu Shenya's face turned green. Although he was very confident in the defensive array of the inner city, the battle between Green Hat and the Pangu silhouette was too terrifying. It made his heart palpitate, and he felt very guilty. Bang! 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 Finally, the battle reached the sky above the inner city. Terrifying shockwaves spread out, causing the defensive array to tremble violently. Terrifying cracks appeared on it. Wu Shenya's face changed. He shouted, "Retreat! Retreat to the Sorcerer Clan's main hall. There's a teleportation array there. Use it to leave this place." Just as Wu Shenya finished speaking, he saw the incomparably huge Pangu silhouette stomp its foot. This stomp landed directly on the defensive array. This stomp was too terrifying. It was as if all the laws were destroyed by this stomp. Soon after, Wu Shenya was horrified to find that the defensive array above the inner city was filled with cracks. More and more cracks appeared, and they became denser. Finally, the defensive array collapsed. The Pangu silhouette's foot, which was like a pillar supporting the heavens, ruthlessly stomped down. Terrifying energy spread out, like snakes slithering in the air. Many Sorcerer Clan disciples were directly penetrated by these energy snakes. Blood mist burst out from their bodies, and their divine souls were destroyed. Wu Shenya roared. He didn't care about the injuries on his body. He took out his large saber and slashed out. Endless saber light burst out, destroying the energy snakes. When Wu Shenya was about to take out his large saber again to help the other Sorcerer Clan disciples repel the energy snakes, the Pangu silhouette's foot suddenly kicked over. Wu Shenya's face changed. He could only raise his large saber and block it in front of him. Crack! The large saber shattered, and Wu Shenya was sent flying by the kick. He crashed into the ground, and his entire body was covered in blood. He looked very miserable. Rumble. Zhuowen roared. He controlled the Pangu silhouette and fiercely slapped at Green Hat's body. Green Hat didn't expect the Pangu silhouette to suddenly explode with such terrifying energy. He didn't pay attention and was sent flying, landing on the ground. Chapter 3388. Zhuowen turned his head with great difficulty and looked at the heavily injured Wu Xunya in the inner city. His eyes were filled with a terrifying killing intent. Wu Xunya also noticed the killing intent in Zhuowen's eyes. His heart jumped as he stomped on the ground with his right foot and retreated like an arrow. However, his expression was unsightly. Wu Xunya, die. You can't escape. Zhuowen roared. All of his blood essence was being sucked away. His body was becoming weaker and weaker, and his mind was becoming more and more blurry. However, he knew that he had to get rid of Wu Xunya. This was his best chance. If he missed it, he might not have another chance in the future. Pangu's figure raised his right hand and fiercely slammed it down towards Wu Xunya. The palm wind whistled, and a terrifying energy ripple swept out. The entire space of Wu Xunya city froze because of this terrifying energy. Wu Xunya wanted to retreat, but he was suppressed by this pressure. His retreat speed was reduced to the speed of a turtle. Wu Xunya's eyes flashed with ruthlessness as he looked at the crystal-clear palm that was getting closer and closer. He knew that he would not be able to dodge this palm. Apart from taking the initiative to fight back, there was no other way. Wu Xunya gathered all of the energy in his body. His body emitted a dazzling light. He pushed his hands towards the sky. A blazing and powerful energy gathered in his palms and shot upwards. Rumble. The sparkling and translucent palm finally landed on Wu Xuanye's body. The energy that Wu Xuanye had pushed out with his hands suddenly collapsed and turned into dust. Then, Wu Xunya's hands began to crumble. Bang! Finally, the sparkling and translucent palm fiercely smashed into the ground. Wu Xuanye's entire body was smashed into the ground by the energy of the palm. The powerful energy exploded, causing the ground to crack open. Terrifying abyss-like cracks appeared. Wu Xunya's figure completely disappeared. Even his aura was destroyed. In other words, Wu Xunya had completely disappeared under that palm. Not even his aura was left behind. All of the sorcerer tribe disciples in the inner city looked at this scene. They forgot to run for their lives as they stared blankly at the abyss. Holy Master, all of the sorcerer tribe disciples were crying out in grief. They couldn't feel Wu Xuanye's aura. There was only one conclusion to this situation: Wu Xuanye had completely fallen. As for the other foreign race experts who had already brought up Sorcerer God City, they all looked at this scene in shock. They were all cursing in their hearts. How strong was Long Wen? The strength of the phantom he summoned was too terrifying. The holy sovereign of the sorcerer race, Wu Xunya, was actually slapped to death by a single palm. Brat, you've successfully angered me. How dare you kill someone right under my nose? Do you really think that I can't deal with you? Seeing that Wu Xunya was killed, Green Hat's face turned ugly. Just now, he was caught off guard and allowed Zhuowen to take advantage of the opening and force him to retreat. However, he was not injured at all. Green Hat walked forward step by step. His footsteps became faster and faster. Every step was like a great bell. The sound was loud and clear. It was as if the sky was falling and the earth was splitting. Boom! When Green Hat took the last step, he shot out like an arrow, leaving the bowstring, breaking the air and arriving in front of Pan Gu's shadow in an instant. With difficulty, Zhuowen controlled the Pan Jiyu silhouette to launch a punch. Boom! Green Hat sneered and punched out. When the two fists collided, the Pan Jiyu silhouette's right fist was destroyed. Green Hat followed up with another attack. His right fist was wrapped in a thunderous force. Terrifying energy exploded and the Pan Jiyu silhouette's right arm exploded. The Pan Jiyu silhouette retreated continuously. Its huge body was unstable and swaying. Green Hat landed on the ground. His legs bounced and he shot out again. This time, his target was the Pan Jiyu silhouette's chest, where Zhuowen was. He knew that the lifeline of the Pan Jiyu silhouette was Zhuowen. As long as he could capture Zhuowen, the Pan-Jiyu silhouette would naturally collapse. At this moment, Zhuowen's body was in a terrible state. Too much of his blood essence had been absorbed, and his mind was becoming increasingly muddled. He knew that he was in trouble. If he didn't retreat now, he wouldn't be able to. He also saw that Green Hat was getting closer and closer. His face became extremely ugly. Zhuowen, surrender obediently. This should be your final trump card. You have indeed exceeded my expectations. But in the face of absolute strength, no matter how many tricks you have, it is useless. Die. Green Hat smiled proudly. He was already close to the Pan-Jiyu silhouette's chest. His right hand reached out and grabbed Zhuowen, intending to pull him out. Zhuowen held the blood-red token in his hand. Seeing that Green Hat was getting closer and closer, his eyes flashed with ruthlessness. Green Hat, do you really want the Pan-Jiyu banner so much? Zhuowen asked. Keek, who doesn't want such a good thing? Have you thought it through? Although Green Hat said this, his speed was not slow. His right hand formed a claw and was about to reach into the Pan-Jiyu silhouette's chest. I want to say that I don't have the Pan-Jiyu banner. And my life, you can forget about it. After saying this, Zhuowen activated the blood-red token in his right hand. A blood-red light instantly enveloped him. Green Hat saw through Zhuowen's intention and his expression changed greatly. His speed suddenly increased. Unfortunately, the blood-red light's teleportation speed was too fast. It wrapped around Zhuowen and disappeared in an instant. However, before Zhuowen disappeared, he dripped a drop of blood on the Pan-Jiyu silhouette. At this moment, Green Hat had completely broken into the Pan-Jiyu silhouette's chest. He saw the drop of blood fall between the Pan-Jiyu silhouette's eyebrows with his own eyes. Then, he saw the energy in the Pan-Jiyu silhouette suddenly become violent. Then, this energy became more and more terrifying and expanded. Green Hat's pupils shrank into needles. He shouted and hurriedly retreated. Unfortunately, he retreated too late. The Pan-Jiyu silhouette self-destructed. That terrifying explosion was like the eruption of a blazing sun. Light overflowed in all directions, rushing to the heavens and sweeping the earth, illuminating the entire sky. Green Hat was enveloped by the explosion and did not even have the chance to retreat. The area of the explosion was too terrifying. In an instant, it engulfed the inner city. The disciples of the sorcerer tribe who did not have time to leave through the teleportation formation in the sorcerer tribe's main hall were all turned into dust. Even the magnificent sorcerer tribe's main hall collapsed into a pile of ruins. Outside the sorcerer god city, many experts of the foreign tribes were frightened when they saw the explosion. They quickly retreated, trying to get as far away from the sorcerer god city as possible. They could see that the explosion was terrifying and the area of effect was very wide. Now, with the sorcerer god city as the center, it was spreading in all directions. In the end, the explosion enveloped the entire sorcerer god city. Even tens of thousands of miles away from the sorcerer god city were engulfed. Chapter 3389. Famous in the untainted land, the explosion did not last long. It lasted for more than an hour. When the explosion gradually subsided, the entire sorcerer god city had disappeared. It was replaced by a deep and endless abyss. Moreover, the space around the sorcerer god city had become a dangerous zone filled with endless sharp and brutal energy. If an ordinary sovereign of heaven ascension were to enter this abyss of ruins, it was very likely that they would be blasted black and blue by the tyrannical energy. It was even possible that they would die here. It's too terrifying. That draconic rune is actually able to create such a huge commotion. The Moon Wolf clan's patriarch, Taiha, muttered to himself in disbelief. The sorcerer tribe is finished. Sorcerer god city has been destroyed. Even Holy Master Wu Shinya has died. The giant turtle tribe leader sighed softly. Tribe leader, do you think Long Wen died when he self-destructed? Qian Ping, who was beside Taiha, asked with a complicated look in her beautiful eyes. The energy produced by the self-destruction of Pangu's shadow was extremely terrifying. She knew that even if Long Wen had the ability to reach heaven, It was impossible for him to survive. I'm not sure either. Long Wen should have died. Even the mysterious expert could not have survived such an explosion. Yi Taihe hesitated for a while before answering. Hearing this, Chen Ping's beautiful eyes dimmed. Her feelings towards Long Wen were extremely complicated. When she had first met Long Wen, she had called him a country bumpkin and looked down on him. However, Zhuowen's rise had changed her view of Long Wen time and time again. In the end, it had caused such a huge commotion. For some reason, Chen Ping's feelings towards Zhuowen had become contradictory and complicated. When she saw Zhuowen die in front of her, she felt a little pity and a little reluctance. The rest of the foreign race experts were also discussing the battle. They felt that everything was too unbelievable. The sorcerer tribe was razed to the ground just like that. This would become the biggest news in the history of the untainted heaven domain. Look, there's movement in the abyss. Suddenly, a sharp-eyed foreign expert pointed at the abyss in front of them and yelled. His voice immediately attracted the attention of all the foreign race experts. Their gazes fell on the abyss in front of them. There, a vague figure slowly appeared in their line of sight. This figure stood in the void of the abyss, and the raging energy around him did not affect him at all when it slammed into him. When this figure finally walked out of the abyss, all the foreign race experts gasped and involuntarily stepped back. He's not dead. How strong? Yi Taihe felt incredulous. He stared at the figure that appeared in everyone's eyes. This figure was Green Hat. At this moment, Green Hat's shriveled body was dripping with green blood. The blood was sparkling and translucent. If it wasn't for the fact that it came from Green Hat's body, one would think that it was nectar. It emitted a brilliant green light and contained an inconceivably terrifying energy. Hat Green Hat's was green. Hat Green Hat. Green Hat was Green Hat Green Studio. Zhuowen what you Zhuowen Time Studio. It was no wonder that he was in no hurry to leave the Sorcerer God City. The next time I meet you, I won't be courteous to you anymore. I'll kill you and take the Pangu banner from you. Green Hat's face was gloomy as he muttered to himself. He was indeed powerful, but the energy generated by the explosion of Pangu's silhouette was way too terrifying. No matter how powerful he was still injured, and the injury wasn't light. If he wanted to recover from his injuries, he would have to pay a high price and spend a lot of time. Green Hat naturally saw the many foreign experts in the distance, but he didn't say anything. Instead, he took out a flying divine artifact and left. Many foreign race experts could only watch as Green Hat left. Although they could see that Green Hat's injury was very serious, no one had the slightest thought about it. This was a genuine half-step heaven-crushing cultivator. Even though he was severely wounded, he was still not someone they could casually provoke. The foreign race experts did not linger around the ruins of the Sorcerer God City for long before they left one after another. As for the name Long Wen, it began to spread throughout the entire great desolate heaven realm through word of mouth. As a result, most of the foreign races in the primitive heavenly realm learned that there was a bold prodigy from a small race named Long Wen. Not only did he kill Wu Xingyuan, the prodigy of the sorcerer tribe, as well as prodigies from other large races, but he also killed several other prodigies. Long Wen had even killed several tens of patriarchs, including the patriarchs of the Phoenix clan, the Corpse clan, the Merfolk clan, the Dragon clan, and the Black Tiger clan. The most shocking thing was that Long Wen had also killed the high priest of the sorcerer tribe, Wu Wuxian, and holy master Wu Shinya. He had even razed Sorcerer God City to the ground. Once this news spread, it spread like wildfire throughout the entire primitive heavenly realm. Almost all the races in the primitive heavenly realm knew about Long Wen's deeds. Moreover, Long Wen's deeds became more and more miraculous as they spread. In the end, even Long Wen was deified. Many foreign races felt pity for Long Wen because it was said that a mysterious elite, who was suspected to be a half-step heaven-crushing cultivator, had battled with Long Wen and forced him to self-detonate. Many foreign races felt that it was a pity that Long Wen had died just like that. They all knew that Long Wen had not cultivated for long and was a genius of a small race. His future potential was limitless. Now that he had died, they felt that it was a pity. Of course, Zhuowen was not dead. Those who had witnessed it with their own eyes had been too far away from the battle in Magus God City. When Zhuo Wen had been teleported away by the blood-colored token, they had not seen it clearly. They had only thought that Zhuo Wen, who had been enveloped by the blood-colored light, had been turned into a bloody mist by Green Hat. The only person who knew that Zhuo Wen was not dead was Green Hat, who was recuperating somewhere. In the main city of the Devouring Clan, Yu Lu sat on the main seat. Only Yu Lu and the young genius of the Devouring Clan, Secludeless, were in the hall. Yu Lu and Secludeless watched the image in front of them in silence. At the end of the image, when Sorcerer God City collapsed, the image disappeared. It's Lord Zhuo Wen. He must be Lord Zhuo Wen. Secludeless clenched his fists and said with certainty, "Yeah, his Lord Zhuo Wen. Back then, when Milord used his alias, he told me that his alias was Long Wen. Lord Zhuo Wen had put a lot of thought into it. He used his alias to avoid dragging our Devouring Clan down." Yu Lu sighed. When Yu Lu had seen the image of the great battle in Sorcerer God City, he was stunned. He had never thought that Zhuo Wen could be that intimidating. He had killed so many experts of the sky-piercing realm in Sorcerer God City. In the end, he had even killed the High Priest and the Saint Master of the Sorcerer Clan. Such a magnificent feat had never happened before. Since ancient times, the Devouring Clan had been glorious. They had been one of the 10 great clans in the primitive heavenly territory. However, there had never been a monstrous genius like Zhuo Wen, who could stir up a storm in the Sorcerer Tribe's Sorcerer God City and even raze the city to the ground in the end. He was the first person in history. Thinking of this, Yu Lu's heart was ignited with hot blood that had not appeared for a long time. There was no other reason. It was because the legendary Earth Dragon Rune was a disciple of their shaman tribe. Chapter 3390. Wu Lu. Yu Lu sighed, looking at Secluded. Secluded, your innate endowment is the strongest in our Devouring Clan. As long as you cultivate harder, I'm afraid you can catch up with Master Zhuo Wen in the future. At that time, the entire great desolate heavenly domain will be shaken because of you. However, you have to remember that you can't disclose Master Zhuo Wen's story. Otherwise, the entire Devouring Clan will be implicated. Yu Lu's voice was strict. He knew that Secluded had a blind admiration for Zhuo Wen. Zhuo Wen's death was a big blow to Secluded. Shi Yang was afraid that Secluded would do something stupid that would bring a big disaster to the Devouring Clan. Secluded clasped his hands, his eyes resolute. "Patriarch, don't worry. Secluded won't tell others about this. Before I'm strong enough, I won't show off and bring disaster to the clan. I will cultivate harder. I will become the real expert of the great desolate heavenly domain. At that time, I will bring the Devouring Clan back to the peak. At that time, I will clear Master Zhuo Wen's name. I will make his name go down in history." Yu Lu was happy to see Secluded's resolute face. He nodded, "Yeah, as long as you cultivate hard, our Devouring Clan will advance further." While the untainted heaven realm was in an uproar because of Zhuo Wen, in a huge and luxurious palace in the mysterious heaven accessing place, a purple-skinned man with purple hair crushed the communication jade charm in his hand. A powerful aura suddenly spread out. The maids who were serving around him were sent flying with a groan by this terrifying aura. They crawled up from the ground and knelt in front of the man, begging for forgiveness. "You guys can leave. I'm not angry because of you," said the purple-haired man coldly. The maids exchanged looks. They didn't dare to disobey the purple-haired man's order, so they left. Not long after the maids had left, loud footsteps arose. From the aisle in front of the main hall, a beautiful woman with an enchanting figure and peerless beauty slowly walked over. "Taiji, what happened to you? Why are you so angry? It's been so many years, and I've never seen you lose your temper like this." This enchanting beauty slowly walked to the side of the purple-haired man with sexy cat-like steps. Her large breasts slowly leaned against the purple-haired man's arm, squeezing out a very seductive arc. The Witch God City was razed to the ground. The current Holy Master Wu Shenye, the High Priest Wu Wuxian, and most of the Witch Clan's members were killed. "Do you think I can stay calm?" said the purple-haired man's face darkened. The beautiful woman who was nestled beside the purple-haired man trembled the moment she heard the news. Her beautiful eyes narrowed into needles. Really? The woman couldn't stay calm. Do you think it's a lie? Is the God God? Moreover, this matter has spread throughout the entire untainted heaven realm. I think the human race has also received the news. Many people are waiting to laugh at our wizard tower. The purple-haired man's expression was gloomy and his voice was filled with irritation. That's a big deal. Limitless, who did it? How dare they? Wait, the inner city of the witch god city has an extremely powerful defensive formation. Even if a master of heaven ascension were to break in, he would still die. In the primitive heavenly realm, only a half-step heaven ascension cultivator can do that. However, half-step heaven ascension cultivators are all in the heavenly secret realm. Entering and exiting the heavenly secret realm is recorded, and they are under the supervision of other cultivators. Also, it's not like they don't know the relationship between the witch clan and the witch clan. How could they risk offending us and go to the witch clan to cause trouble? Said the woman seriously. That's where the problem lies. It's said that there were two people causing trouble in the witch clan. One of them was a genius from a small clan called Long Wen, and the other was a mysterious person who looked like a dried corpse. Long Wen's cultivation wasn't that strong, but his physical body was extremely terrifying. In the end, he even used a powerful trump card and temporarily unleashed the strength of a half-step heaven ascension cultivator. But because of that, he self-destructed and died together with the green-haired corpse. According to the news, Long Wen died, but the green-haired corpse was unharmed and left the ruins of the witch god city. No one knows where it went. When the purple-haired man mentioned the green-haired corpse, his face suddenly became very serious. What? The powerful energy that destroyed the witch god city was at least the full blow of the peak of the first blight. The green-haired corpse faced it head-on and didn't die. It even had the strength to leave, said the woman in disbelief. Yes. I suspect that the green-haired corpse has at least passed the second blight of the 5 blights of celestial beings, and it's not a cultivator in the heavenly secret realm, said the purple-haired man with a frown. Impossible. Whether it's the Shen-Mi heavenly domain or the untainted heavenly domain, as long as someone's cultivation broke through to the master of the heavenly secret realm, it would immediately be recorded by the Tianshu pavilion in the heavenly secret realm. The green-haired corpse was at the second blight, so it would definitely be recorded. How could it be? Said the woman in shock. I've checked, and the green-haired corpse was indeed not found in the Tianshu pavilion. Even Long Wen was not found. Long Wen shouldn't be a master of the heavenly secret realm, but the green-haired corpse is very strange. It's very likely that it came from another heavenly domain, said the purple-haired man in a low voice. No way. Over the years, the heavenly energy has become thinner and thinner because of the chaos. Whether it's the untainted heavenly domain or the Shen-Mi heavenly domain, the number of cultivators who can become masters of the heavenly secret realm has also decreased. And it's been a long time since I've seen someone who can become a half-step master of the heavenly secret realm. Now, the half-step master of the heavenly secret realm has successfully become a half-step master of the heavenly secret realm. It's impossible in other heavenly domains, said the woman in disbelief. That's not impossible. If this person became a half-step master of the heavenly secret realm a long time ago and then hid somewhere outside the untainted heavenly domain and the Shen-Mi heavenly domain until recently, then it makes sense, said the purple-haired man with bright eyes. The woman nodded. The purple-haired man's guess was very likely. That green-haired corpse probably has a big secret. We have to find that guy. Maybe we can find something very useful. Xiangjuan, take my identity token and ask Wu Ji Yang and Wu Ji Miao to return to the sorcerer tribe and rebuild the witch god city. Then, go and investigate the green-haired corpse. The purple-haired man said coldly as he handed the identity token to the woman. Although the woman was very reluctant, she could not bear the purple-haired man's cold gaze. She could only take the token and leave the hall. Chapter 3391. Circulation. Zhuan felt that the world was spinning, and waves of dizziness came from his head. He seemed to be passing through a passage at a high speed. Bang! A dull sound of collision was heard. Zhuowen felt that his back was hit hard, and there was a heart-wrenching pain. He could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Zhuowen struggled to get up. He quickly took out many healing elixirs from the macro world and swallowed them all. Only then did he manage to suppress the terrible injuries in his body. However, even so, the injuries in his body were still terrible. It was extremely difficult for him to move. Zhuowen summoned the Thunder Fire Sword, the Sacrificial Death Sword, and the Blood Fairy Sword. 3 sword lights surrounded him, forming a strong defense. Only then did he dare to relax. After all, the place he was teleported to was an unfamiliar place. Who knew if there would be any danger? Naturally, he was taking precautions. Boy, you've gained a lot this time. How many divine weapons have you gotten? You don't have any use for them. Why don't you leave them to us? Blackie sat upright on the hilt of the Thunder Fire Sword, his eyes shining as he looked at Zhuowen. His gaze was like a lustful wolf looking at a peerless beauty. It was as strange as it could be, causing Zhuowen to have goosebumps all over his body. Xiao He and the others were weapon cultivators. If they wanted to advance quickly, they needed precious refining materials or high-level divine weapons. Moreover, Zhuowen had collected those divine artifacts for Blackie and the others. Therefore, he readily agreed to Blackie's request, intending to hand over the divine artifacts he had subdued to them. Little Black was wild with joy and said a few words of flattery, which was a rare occurrence. Zhuowen no longer paid attention to Xiao He. His eyes fell on the surrounding environment. He discovered that the place he was in was a sunken area within a mountain range. What made Zhuowen frown was that the surrounding mountains were very unusual. This was because these mountains were the color of the starry sky and were shining with starlight. Zhuowen's divine sense began extending outwards. Very quickly, it enveloped the entire mountain range. He was shocked because from the perspective of his divine telekinesis, this huge mountain looked like the shape of a giant if he looked down from the sky. It was as if a giant was lying on his back in this space and finally turned into this mountain range. This aura. It's so familiar. Zhuowen's divine thought kept hovering above the mountain range. He felt a familiar feeling in the surroundings. Moreover, the blood in his body began to boil the instant he entered the mountain range. It was like boiling water, surging and churning endlessly. It was as if something was summoning the blood in his body. This is definitely where Pangu's translations were when guessed and was pleasantly surprised. He could not be wrong about the resonance of the bloodline. After all, he had received part of Pangu's inheritance and cultivated the sacred body of Pangu. He was all too familiar with Pangu's aura. Zhuowen's divine thought kept wandering around the mountain range. He found that this mountain range was very vast, as if there was no end to it. He also found that the space where the mountain range was located was very strange. It was similar to the starry sky, but it seemed to be more wonderful than the starry sky. It was another space beyond the starry sky, and it was far more advanced than the worlds he had been in before. What is that? Zhuowen's divine thought followed the direction of the mountain range and continued to derive. Finally, he found something strange in the distance, which was the second half of the mountain range. In the second half of the mountain range, he saw that the mountain range was pitch black. There was no starlight shining, as if it was a broken and dead starry sky. Moreover, Zhuowen also felt a very strong aura of death in the second half of the mountain range. This aura of death was unusual. It was not the kind of aura of decay and destruction, but an aura of nirvana and nothingness. This aura made Zhuowen feel very frightened, and it even gave him a strong feeling of dread. Nirvana and nothingness was a state of nothingness. Whether it was matter or feeling, there was nothing. Being in such an environment, Zhuowen even felt confused as to whether he was alive or not. This feeling was simply too unbearable. It gave Zhuowen the urge to commit suicide. No. Zhuowen suddenly woke up and quickly withdrew his divine thought. His forehead was full of cold sweat. What is the second half of the mountain range? Why does it give me such a feeling? Zhuowen was horrified. He felt that the second half of the mountain range had a power that was far superior to him and the starry sky. That power was very strange. It silently invaded his divine soul, as if it could deprive him of his consciousness and control him. It made him feel like he had nothing to live for and started to commit suicide. Zhuowen had a hunch that the power in the second half of the mountain range was very terrifying. He could not enter that place casually. Moreover, Zhuowen had a feeling that the strange power in the second half of the mountain range was like a virus that was eroding the mountain range. This feeling was very strange, but it suddenly appeared in his mind. Let's figure out this place first. Zhuowen sighed softly. His injuries were too serious. Whether it was to figure out the situation here or to explore the truth of the place where Pangu fell, he had to recover from his injuries first. Zhuowen began to set up defensive formations and trap and kill formations around him. It took him a whole day to set up a sufficiently powerful and complicated formation before he stopped. As for the Thunder Fire Sword, the Sacrificial Death Sword, and the Blood Immortal Sword, he put them into the macro world. He also gave the divine weapons he had obtained this time to Xiao Hei for him to distribute and cultivate. Xiao Hei's progress was very obvious. He had already evolved to the middle stage of the Heaven Ascension realm. As long as he absorbed these divine weapons, Zhuowen felt that Xiao Hei would have no problem evolving to the late stage of the Heaven Ascension realm. Meanwhile, Crepe Myrtle Star was still healing in the macro world. His injuries were more serious than Zhuowen's. He was almost half dead. Moreover, his recovery ability was much worse than Zhuowen's. If he wanted to completely recover, it would be much slower than Zhuowen's. Zhuowen looked at his almost broken body and shook his head with a wry smile. He knew that he would need a lot of resources and time to completely recover from his injuries. He was not afraid of resources. After all, he had killed so many experts of the Heaven Ascension realm. He did not let go of any of their spiritual rings. The resources he had probably surpassed the resources of any tribe in the untainted heavenly realm. He was mainly worried that it would take him a long time to completely recover. He estimated that it would take at least a month for him to completely recover. During the time Zhuowen was healing, not only had Long Wen's name spread throughout the untainted heavenly realm, but even the Xian Mi heavenly realm had learned that something big had happened to the wizard tribe in the untainted heavenly realm. They knew that a genius from a small tribe named Long Wen had single-handedly killed the clan leaders of 5 of the top 10 tribes. He had also killed dozens of clan leaders, including the Saint Master and the High Priest of the wizard tribe. Chapter 3392. Sakyamuni's Plantian Mi Heavenly Region, Host Region, 10 Extremes Yin Corpse Sect. 2 young disciples stood at the entrance of the Grand Sect Master's Hall, trembling with fear. They lowered their eyes and waited for the Master of the Hall to summon them. Zhao Shu, why do you think the Sect Master summoned us? One of the young men in white trembled as he asked the young man in blue beside him. The young man in blue, Zhao Shu, was trembling even more than the young man in white. I don't know either. But recently, rumors have been spreading in the sect. They say that the senior and junior brothers who were summoned into the main hall by the sect master have never appeared in the sect again. It seems that they have mysteriously disappeared. The blue-clothed youth trembled as he spoke. I heard that too. It is said that the disciples who were summoned into the sect master's hall have all died. I don't know if this rumor is true or not. The young man in white wanted to cry. I hope it is false. Ever since Sakyamuni ascended to the position of sect master, her temperament has changed greatly. Most of the time, she is cooped up in the hall. I don't know what she is doing. I hope the sect master is not as the rumors say. The young man in blue smiled bitterly. Creak. The door of the hall opened, and a middle-aged man with a gloomy expression walked out. He sized up the young man in white and the young man in blue and said coldly, "Why are the 2 of you still dawdling at the door? Go in. The sect master is about to summon you." The young man in blue and the young man in white hurriedly lowered their eyes and nodded obediently. Then, they hurriedly entered the hall. However, their bodies trembled even more violently, and their footsteps were weak. The 2 of them entered the depths of the main hall and discovered that it was pitch black and eerie. This was the first time the 2 of them had entered the Patriarch's main hall. Seeing the scene inside the main hall, They recalled some of the rumors in the sect and their faces turned deathly pale. Soon, they saw the figure sitting on the throne in the depths of the hall. Sakra was wearing a blood-colored shawl. His pair of golden eyes emitted a golden glow in the dark hall, as though he was a majestic lion sizing up its prey that was about to hunt. When the young man in white and the young man in blue saw Sakyamuni's golden eyes, their bodies trembled and they involuntarily knelt on the ground, trembling. "Greetings, Sect Master," the two of them said respectfully. "Recently, there seems to be a rumor spreading in the Xian-Mi heavenly region. It seems to be about Long Wen. Do you know about it?" Sakyamuni sat in the sect master's hall, looking down at the two trembling youths. His voice was calm but had an unquestionable majesty. When the name Long Wen was mentioned, Sakra's gaze was somewhat strange. If he remembered correctly, Zhuo Wen had also used the alias of Long Wen back then. Therefore, when he heard Long Wen's name, he was very interested. However, he had basically been in seclusion during this period of time, so the news was very limited. Now, he asked someone to invite a disciple who was more well-informed to come forward and talk to him. When the white-clothed youth and the blue-clothed youth saw that Di Shitian had summoned them in order to understand this kind of news, they both let out a sigh of relief and began to explain the news that had come from the great desolate heaven realm. After Sakra heard this, his eyes revealed a look of surprise. According to the two of them, Long Wen had become a godlike figure. He had participated in the Sorcerer Tribe's Sorcerer Song Conference alone and suppressed all the geniuses of the 10 great clans. Even Wu Xingyuan, the #1 genius of the Sorcerer Tribe, had been killed by him. What shocked him even more was that Long Wen had killed dozens of Masters of Heaven Pass, including 5 at the advanced stage of Heaven Pass. In addition, the High Priest and Sacred Master of the Sorcerer Tribe had been killed. The High Priest was a Divine Master of Heaven Pass, and the Sacred Master was even more terrifying. He was at the peak of the Master of Heaven Pass. Even such an expert was killed. Just how perverted was this Long Wen? The Sorcerer God City has been destroyed. Long Wen is really bold. Did he almost destroy the Sorcerer Tribe? Sakyamuni stood up and frowned. He felt that something was wrong and wondered if Long Wen was Zhuoan of the human tribe. Although the young man in white and the young man in blue both said that Long Wen was a genius from a small tribe in the primitive heaven realm and was definitely not human, he still had a bad feeling and worry. He was afraid that Long Wen was Zhuoan in disguise. If that was really the case, then he was really a little scared. After he awakened his powerful talent and devoured the sect master of the 10 Extremes Yin Corpse sect, his strength rose very quickly. Now, he was already at the intermediate stage of Heaven Pass, and was moving towards the advanced stage of Heaven Pass. If that Long Wen was really Zhuoan, even if his strength was already strong enough now, compared to the Long Wen in the rumors, he was still far away. Then wouldn't his situation be dangerous? Sect Master, in the end, a mysterious elite seemed to have appeared and fought with Long Wen. In the end, he forced Long Wen to self-detonate and die, and that mysterious elite left with serious injuries. That mysterious elite was suspected to be a half-step heaven-crushing elite, and his strength was ridiculously strong, the young man in white hurriedly said. "Oh, that Long Wen self-detonated and died." Sakyamuni's eyes lit up, and he asked again. "Yes, this is absolutely true, and there is also the leaked battle video from the primitive heaven realm. Coincidentally, I have a copy." The young man in white was very tactful, and he took out a crystal ball from his spirit ring, and handed it over to Sakyamuni with both hands. Sakyamuni looked carefully a few times, and only after seeing that image of Pangu had indeed self-detonated did he feel completely at ease. But after watching the battle in the video, his heart could not calm down. Only now did he realize that he was actually a frog at the bottom of a well. There was actually such a terrifying elite in this galaxy. Sakyamuni waved his hand, and said, "You two can leave." The young man in white and the young man in blue both sighed lightly, and they both cupped their hands and retreated. However, they had just walked to the entrance of the palace when 2 blade lights flashed past, and then a bloody hole appeared between their brows, and they fell straight to the ground. At the entrance of the palace, a figure slowly walked out. It was none other than the middle-aged man who had urged the two of them to enter the palace. The middle-aged man glanced at the two of them, and said to a hidden corner, "Take these two to the blood pool." As soon as the middle-aged man finished speaking, two figures rushed out from the shadows and dragged the corpses of the white-clothed and blue-clothed young men away. The middle-aged man walked directly to the depths of the palace, and knelt before Sakyamuni, and said, "Sect Master, those two have been taken care of. Millimeter, thank you for your hard work. Have you found the Rika that I asked you to investigate?" Sakyamuni asked calmly from his seat. "I have. The Rika has taken over the Huangji family's territory, and it is said that they are developing quite well. Sect Master, destroying the Rika is as easy as moving a finger. I can help you destroy the Rika," the middle-aged man said solemnly. "No rush. Continue to send people to seal off the Rika's territory, and cut off all contact with the Rika. Isolate the Rika first. I want the Rika to slowly feel the fear of isolation. Once I take over the other Dao Palace factions in the host region, I will let the flowers of the dead bloom all over the host region. When the time comes, the entire host region will submit to me. I will personally go to the Rika and execute the Rika one by one." Chapter 3393. Pangu splits the heavens. Zhuan slowly opened his eyes. His face was no longer pale, but ruddy. It took him a whole month to recover from his injuries. With the help of a large number of healing pills and the powerful recovery ability of the Pangu sacred body, he finally recovered from his injuries. From this, it could be seen that the injuries he suffered this time were really terrible. Moreover, Zhuan also found that the level of the Pangu sacred body he cultivated was getting higher and higher. Although he was stronger, it was harder for him to be injured. However, once his physical body was injured, it would require a lot of resources to recover. After all, the level of energy in his physical body was too high. If the quality was not enough, he would need quantity to make up for it. Zhuan stood up and put away the restriction formation around him. He looked around the mountain range and confirmed that this was the place where Pangu fell. Zhuan closed his eyes and began to use his Pangu inheritance to resonate with the mountain range, so that he could find the remaining Pangu inheritance. Soon, the blood in Zhuan's body boiled again. He sensed that somewhere in the depths of the mountain range, there was a deep cave, where he felt the source of the resonance. Zhuan took a deep breath and suppressed the excitement in his heart. His right foot pushed off the ground and shot out like an arrow leaving the bow, heading towards the cave dwelling that he had sensed. Soon, Zhuan arrived near the cave. Zhuan found that the mountain range where the cave was located was very close to the back half of the mountain range. Zhuan could not help but think of the strange power in the back half of the mountain range. His eyes were full of fear. That power was nirvana and nothingness. It could make me fall into a state of chaos and ignorance in an instant. At that time, if his divine thoughts were not strong enough and he was only close to that power instead of going deep, his divine soul would have become chaotic. Zhuan stood in front of the mountain in front of him. His eyes became very serious because he found that the mountain in front of him was the center of the entire mountain range. In other words, half of the mountain was filled with the power of nirvana and nothingness. The mountain was deep and dark, and the laws were chaotic and disorderly. The other half was like a starry sky that flickered with specks of starlight and was filled with exuberant vitality. Zhuan smiled bitterly. He did not expect the location of the cave to be so coincidental. Although the location of the cave was in the front half of the mountain range, Zhuan was very clear how powerful the power of nirvana and nothingness was. Even if he did not directly touch it, he would still be affected. After hesitating for a while, Zhuan decided to enter the cave and try it. The moment he stepped into the cave, he immediately smelled the aura of emptiness and destruction. Then, his 5 senses started to fade away. Zhuan's face. But he did not retreat. He was. Zhuan, as he was like a bolt of black lightning. Black Zhuan's face was ugly. He started to circulate his soul. Then he found the soul sword intent hidden in his soul. It suddenly released a powerful and fierce sword intent to resist the power of nirvana that was constantly entering his soul. For a time, The speed at which Zhuo Wen's 5 senses were fading away was greatly reduced, but it could not be completely cured. Zhuo Wen knew that he could not stay in the cave for too long. Otherwise, even if the soul sword intent could resist a little, he would not be able to hold on for too long. Finally, Zhuo Wen arrived at the deepest part of the cave. He had reached his limit, and his consciousness became blurry. The endless power of nirvana and nothingness flowed from between his eyebrows like a tide. It poured into the depths of his sea of consciousness, occupying and filling his sea of consciousness. Plop! Zhuo Wen fell to the ground. Before he lost consciousness, he saw a light flickering in the depths of the cave. However, his eyelids were too heavy. He did not see clearly what the light was. So his eyes fell into darkness. After an unknown period of time, light began to appear in the darkness in front of Zhuo Wen. The silence at the beginning was completely broken by this light. Zhuo Wen's eyes narrowed from the stimulation of this light. Then, he saw an incomparably huge and imposing figure at the source of the light. Zhuo Wen was not unfamiliar with this figure. It was Pangu. Back when he received the inheritance, he had seen Pangu. However, Pangu's figure was very blurry in his eyes. But now, Pangu's figure was clearer than ever. Pangu was holding the sky-splitting axe. The Taiji diagram was above his head, and the mark of the Pangu banner appeared between his eyebrows. A pair of bright and spirited eyes seemed to be able to see through the ages and penetrate the heavens and the earth. I want to open up this starry sky, break open this vault of heaven, break free from your shackles, and truly be free. You can't stop me. And these chaos beasts are a joke in front of me. Pangu roared. He held the sky-splitting axe and slashed. Suddenly, the darkness surrounding him was split open. Moreover, after the darkness was split open, it actually let out a horrifying wail. Zhuo Wen took a closer look and realized that the darkness surrounding Pangu was actually wriggling as if it was alive. This is not true darkness, but chaos. The moment Pangu split open the darkness, he finally saw the true appearance of the darkness. He saw that the deep and pitch-black darkness was actually a strange creature. These strange creatures were shaped like dogs. They had long fur and 4 legs. They had eyes but could not see. They could not walk. They had 2 ears but could not hear. They had stomachs but no internal organs. They had intestines but straight, and food passed through them. Zhuo Wen watched Pangu kill the chaos beasts with his axe. His gaze turned serious. This was because he realized that he could sense the aura of emptiness and destruction from the latter half of the mountain range where Pangu had fallen. This similar aura made Zhuo Wen's expression turn ugly. This was because he had a bad guess. There were many chaos beasts. The entire starry sky was filled with chaos beasts. They kept attacking Pangu. However, Pangu was even more terrifying. Every time he swung his axe, it was as if the heavens were falling and the earth was splitting. Countless chaos beasts were turning into dust. Moreover, the powerful force kept expanding the starry sky. However, there were too many chaos beasts. Moreover, if one attack did not completely destroy them, they would immediately return to their peak. This was because the chaos beasts' power came from the darkness. As long as the darkness was not destroyed, their power would be endless. The battle lasted for a very, very long time. It was so long that Zhuo Wen could not remember how many years, decades, or centuries it had been. Finally, Pangu split open all the darkness and destroyed most of the chaos beasts. The rest of the chaos beasts were sealed by Pangu. However, Pangu paid a huge price. His body was covered in wounds, and his eyes were filled with fatigue. Chapter 3394. Axe hilt. He slowly raised his head and looked into the sky. A self-deprecating smile appeared on his face as he muttered to himself, "So that's how it is. How ruthless of you to use the bloodline of the Pangu clan to nurture this starry sky. How hateful. I only realized it now. How hateful. My power has been exhausted by the chaotic beasts, and I don't have the strength to break through to the heaven-crushing stage anymore. I'm already a toy for you, but I refuse to accept this." Then, Zhuo Wen saw the same scene that he had seen when he had first obtained the Pangu banner. Pangu roared into the sky as he summoned the heaven-splitting axe and slammed it into the heavens. Then, the heaven-splitting axe was crushed in the heavens as a gigantic invisible hand came crashing down and completely pulverized Pangu. Before Pangu's death, he had said, "If the heavens want me dead, I'll die. If I don't want to die, I can only crush the heavens." After Pangu's death, this galaxy began to be nurtured. Moreover, due to the nourishment of Pangu's energy, Zhuowen discovered that the galaxy began to transform from deathly stillness to vitality. The galaxy also began to become rich and colorful. And because too much of Pangu's blood had been spilled in this place where Pangu had fallen, it formed a gigantic mountain range that stretched endlessly. And this mountain range was located at the very edge of the galaxy, and it was like a parasite that was constantly absorbing the energy of the galaxy. Zhuowen immediately came to his senses. In this image, he saw that Pangu hadn't destroyed all of the chaotic beasts. Instead, a small portion of them had been sealed, and the place where they had been sealed just so happened to be here. Zhuowen thought about the strange energy at the back of the mountain range. The first thing that came to his mind was that the sealed chaos beast was most likely inside the mountain range. Although the chaotic beasts were very weak in front of Pangu, Zhuowen knew that this was only relative to Pangu. Those chaotic beasts were all at the half-step heaven-crushing stage. Moreover, there were so many Earth chaotic beasts. If they really appeared in this galaxy, it would definitely be an unprecedented disaster for the beings in this galaxy. With this thought in mind, Zhuowen's expression became very grave, and his mood was very bad. At this moment, the image before his eyes had already disappeared, and he slowly woke up. He found that he was still in the depths of the cave, but he was no longer affected by the strange void nirvana energy. Zhuowen stood up, and only now did he notice that there was a rather upright stone table standing in the depths of the abode. On top of the stone table, there was a crystal that was emitting light. What surprised Zhuowen the most was that the crystal was actually beating like a heart. It was because of this crystal's radiance that the surrounding chaotic energy was blocked. Zhuowen carefully extended his right hand and touched the floating crystal. He found that the crystal did not resist him. Moreover, he found that the moment his palm touched the crystal, he felt Pangu Saint's blood boiling. He knew that the remaining inheritance of Pangu was likely to be in this crystal. Suppressing the excitement in his heart, Zhuowen quickly left the cave with the crystal. When he finally walked out of the cave, his expression suddenly changed. This was because he found that the mountain in the middle of the mountain range in front of him had been instantly eroded by the chaotic energy, and had turned completely black. Zhuowen's expression changed slightly. He knew that the chaotic energy had been suppressed by this crystal all these years. Now that he had taken this crystal away, would it speed up the spread of the chaotic energy, and thus release the chaotic beasts suppressed under the mountain range? Young man, don't think too much. Even if you don't take this inheritance crystal away, this mountain range will not be able to suppress the chaotic beasts for long. You were able to obtain the other part of the master's inheritance, which proves that you are the master's chosen successor. This starry sky will eventually welcome the destruction of the chaotic energy. When that time comes, you will have to fulfill the master's dying wish, break open this starry sky, and find the person behind the scenes who framed the master to take revenge. Suddenly, an old voice sounded, and Zhuowen could not help but look over. Behind him was a huge mountain range, and under this mountain range, there was a crystal clear lake. At this moment, the water in the middle of the lake was surging like boiling hot water. Then, he saw an axe handle appear from the water. This was only the axe handle, and there was no blade. Moreover, the front of the axe handle had traces of being broken. It was obvious that the axe handle had become like this because of a great battle. The moment Zhuowen saw this axe handle, he thought of Pangu's heaven-splitting axe. Back then, the heaven-splitting axe had been destroyed by the strongest in the depths of the sky, and only this axe handle was left. However, even if it was only the axe handle, Zhuowen could still feel an ancient and powerful aura from it. It could be seen that when the heaven-splitting axe was still complete, it must have been very powerful. Weapon spirit. Zhuowen looked at the axe handle that flew out of the lake and floated in front of him, and asked, "You can say that I am the weapon spirit of the heaven-splitting axe, but it is no longer complete. The reason why I am able to last until now is because I am still waiting for the destined person. Fortunately, I have been waiting. The axe handle once again spoke in an ancient voice, but there was an additional layer of sadness in the voice. What is your name? The axe handle asked. My name is Zhuowen. I have a lot of questions, and I hope that you can help me solve them, Zhuowen said respectfully as he cupped his hands. This heaven-splitting axe was very powerful. When it had split open the chaos, it was extremely powerful. If it had not been for the mysterious expert in the depths of the sky, the heaven-splitting axe would not have been broken into such a state. I know what you want to ask. I think you should have seen most of what happened back then in this inheritance crystal. Moreover, since you are able to reach here, it means that you have obtained other Pangu's inheritance that was lost outside. Otherwise, even if you have great magic power, you would not be able to enter here. The axe handle pondered for a while and continued, moreover, your guess is right. This mountain does suppress a part of the earth chaos beasts, and they are the real chaos beasts that were not destroyed back then. They are very powerful. Besides, there was also a small part of the chaos beasts that were scattered in other parts of the starry sky. However, those chaos beasts should have been suppressed by Master's descendants, the 12 grand sorcerers and the 3 pure ones. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He had heard about the chaos beasts from the Tai Ching a long time ago. It was said that the chaos beasts were the biggest natural enemy of this starry sky. Moreover, the 12 grand sorcerers had fallen because of the chaos beasts. It seemed that the chaos beasts were everywhere. Not only were there chaos beasts in this place, but there were also chaos beasts in other parts of the starry sky. He knew how terrifying the chaos beasts were. The chaos beasts in this mountain could not be released. Otherwise, it would be a great disaster. This was also why he was hesitant when he took the inheritance crystal. After all, if the chaos beasts left this place, he would be harming all the living things in this starry sky. Chapter 3395. Chaos Beast Senior. How long can this place suppress the chaos beast? Zhuowen frowned and asked. The time is not fixed, but according to my estimation, as long as there are no external forces, this place can hold on for at least 1,000 years. You have to improve yourself as much as possible to prevent any accident. Zhuowen, absorb the inheritance within this crystal first, and then complete it with the inheritance in your body. During this period, I will help you complete the inheritance. The ancient voice continued, Zhuowen, absorb the inheritance in this crystal first, and then complete it with the inheritance in your body. Zhuowen nodded. He could see that the weapon spirit of the heaven-splitting axe had no ill intentions towards him. Senior, I have another question. What exactly is the hand that killed Senior Pangu? You said before that I have to find the person behind this when I break through this galaxy. Is the person behind this the one who killed Senior Pangu? Zhuowen could not help but ask. The handle of the axe trembled. His emotions fluctuated slightly as he said, yes. However, the person behind this is not from this galaxy. You will naturally understand after you break through this galaxy. It will not do you any good to know now. Furthermore, you have obtained Pangu's inheritance. Even if you do not find the person behind this, they will find you. When that time comes, you will be in danger. Are you still willing to accept the inheritance? At this point, the axe handle's voice was slightly complicated and fluctuated violently. Zhuowen's gaze was somewhat complicated. He saw clearly from the image that even a powerful being like Pangu had fallen under that palm. The owner of that palm was suspected of taking advantage of Pangu's precarious situation. He had waited for Pangu to be exhausted by the chaos beast before he finally destroyed Pangu's land. However, this also meant that the owner of that palm was definitely not ordinary. Senior, if the person behind this did not interfere, would Senior Pangu be able to break through this galaxy smoothly and leave this galaxy? Zhuowen asked. He found many suspicious points, especially regarding the relationship between the person behind this and Pangu's land. He had heard Pangu mention the Pangu clan in the image before. The Pangu clan sounded like a branch clan. Could it be that the legendary Pangu's name was not Pangu? Axe Handle sighed and said, So what if Master can break through this starry sky? The difference between his personal strength and the power behind the mastermind was too great. Master's fate had already been decided long ago. It was just that he was unwilling and wanted to struggle for survival, but what he got in return was an even more painful death. Senior Pangu, your real name isn't Pangu, is it? He should be a member of the Pangu clan, right? Zhuowen raised his voice and questioned. How did you know? Axe Handle realized that he had let the cat out of the bag and immediately shut his mouth. Senior, I don't have to ask about the identity of the person behind the scenes. However, since I have obtained Pangu's inheritance and can be considered Pangu's successor, I must know more about Senior Pangu's matters. The more detailed the better. Otherwise, wouldn't the inheritance I obtained be unclear? Zhuowen said solemnly. Axe Handle was silent for a long time. In the end, he let out a long sigh and said, if you are willing to accept the complete inheritance of Pangu, after the inheritance is over, I will tell you about Master. Good. I'm willing to accept the inheritance, Zhuowen said seriously. Are you sure? Even if you have to run for your life in the future, you won't regret it. Axe Handle asked in a deep voice. Zhuowen's heart trembled, but he still said firmly, I won't regret it. As long as you want to obtain power, you have to pay a corresponding price. There is no fruit in this world that can be reaped without sowing. Since I have accepted it, I will bear all the responsibility for it. Good, good, good. Master's choice of you was indeed not wrong. I'll help you complete the inheritance first. Once I'm done, I'll tell you everything I know about Master. Then, I will have to trouble you, Senior. Zhuowen cupped his hands and said respectfully, well, let's leave this place first. The chaotic energy here was simply too unstable. I'm afraid it will affect you. Come with me. After saying that, Axe Handle tore through the air and left. Zhuowen followed closely behind him. Axe Handle brought Zhuowen to the top of the mountain range and stopped. Zhuowen, this is the Dragon's Head area of the mountain range. You should know that this mountain range was formed by Master's blood. It contains an extremely powerful energy. Although countless years have passed and the energy in the mountain range is constantly dissipating, there is still a huge amount of energy remaining. You can see for yourself that the energy in the latter half of the mountain range has been eroded by the chaotic beast. If the chaotic beasts were given enough time, they would have eroded all the energy in the mountain range. That would be too easy for the chaotic beasts. At the same time, the chaotic beasts would become stronger and it would be easier for them to break the seal. Fortunately, you came now. If you came later, there would not be enough energy for you to complete the inheritance, Axe Handle said with a tone of relief. Zhuowen nodded and asked Axe Handle what he should do next. Axe Handle said, this is the Dragon's Head area. Sit here and place the inheritance crystal between your eyebrows. The crystal will enter your spiritual soul and spread throughout your body. It will resonate with the rest of the inheritance in your body. Hearing this, Zhuowen did not hesitate and sat on the Dragon's Head area of the mountain range. However, he secretly sent a voice transmission to the Purple Star Lord and Xiao He, who were recuperating in the Great World. He asked them to keep an eye on him at all times. If anything happened to him, they should immediately come out of the Great World to help him. Although he did not feel the slightest bit of malice from Axe Handle, after so many years of cultivation, his character had been honed to be very cautious and considerate. When Zhuowen sat on the Dragon's Head area, he could clearly feel that there was an extremely powerful energy fluctuation below. Moreover, this energy was of an extremely high level, much higher than the energy of the heavenly path. When he sat down, this energy flowed into his body bit by bit. A strong sense of comfort made Zhuowen moan involuntarily. Let's begin, Axe Handle said when he saw that Zhuowen was ready. Zhuowen nodded and placed the inheritance crystal between his eyebrows. Then, the crystal melted between his eyebrows and entered the depths of his spiritual soul. Then, a look of understanding appeared in his eyes. The moment the inheritance crystal entered his spiritual soul, it scattered into wisps of white light. These wisps of white light contained complex and profound information. They swept through his body like a flood. As this information was absorbed by him, Zhuowen's understanding of Pangu's inheritance deepened. Chapter 3396. 8-star peak. Back then, when he obtained Pangu's inheritance, it was incomplete. Now that he had completed the rest of the inheritance, his understanding of Pangu's inheritance had reached a perfect level. There were many things that he didn't understand in the past, but now, it was as if he had been enlightened. Not only did he gain a deeper understanding of the Pangu sacred body, but he also gained a deeper understanding of the 5 great mysteries he gained from the Pangu banner. He had no doubt that after he received the inheritance, the power of the 5 profundities would undergo a qualitative change when he used them again. Not only that, but after receiving the new information, the Pangu banner in Zhuowen's soul began to change. In the past, he had never been able to control the Pangu banner. His control over it was also intermittent. Sometimes, the Pangu banner would act on its own when he was in a life-and-death situation. But now, after receiving the inheritance, he felt that he had complete control over the Pangu banner. It was as if the Pangu banner would be used according to his will. Whoosh! Zhuowen's divine consciousness moved, and the Pangu banner in his divine soul suddenly flew out from between his eyebrows and floated above his head. The light banner fluttered in the wind, and a powerful aura overflowed, like a storm or a tsunami. It was extraordinary. It was the Pangu banner. This kid's luck was indeed extraordinary. Not only did he obtain Pangu's inheritance, but he also obtained the Pangu banner. It's just that the Pangu banner's spirit doesn't seem to be around anymore. Sigh, it seems that our old friend was defeated in that battle. The Taiji diagram has been completely destroyed and annihilated. Now that I can see the Pangu banner, the heavens are kind to me, allowing me to see my old friend at the last moment. Sensing the Pangu banner's aura, Axe Handle was startled at first. Then, he sighed softly. He couldn't sense the Pangu banner's artifact spirit's aura and knew that the Pangu banner's artifact spirit had already dissipated. However, when the heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit thought of his current situation, he couldn't help but smile bitterly. His situation wasn't much better. He was on the verge of collapse at any moment. Zhuowen, now feel the surging energy at the dragon's head. I will guide the energy of the mountain into your body. You just need to operate the Pangu sacred body. By then, your Pangu sacred body will be further improved, and the inheritance will be more perfect, Axe Handle said in a deep voice. Then I'll have to trouble you, senior. Zhuowen nodded and said solemnly. As soon as Zhuowen finished speaking, he felt the energy below the mountain begin to boil, and immediately rushed into his body. The strong feeling of comfort made Zhuowen involuntarily howl towards the sky. He activated his Pangu sacred body and began to crazily absorb the surging energy under the mountain range, circulating it in his entire body. He was delighted to find that his Pangu sacred body was becoming stronger and the energy in his body was becoming more and more vigorous with the replenishment of this energy. The Pangu sacred body, which had just been promoted, showed signs of evolving again under the baptism of such energy. This made Zhuowen ecstatic. He did not expect that the energy in the mountain range could make his Pangu sacred body evolve again. It showed how high the quality of the energy in the mountain range was. Zhuowen's body emitted a crystal clear light, making Zhuowen look like the most gorgeous jade. He did not look like a real person. Moreover, the crystal clear light on Zhuowen's body became more and more vigorous, and his aura became more and more powerful. The entire mountain range seemed to have begun to tremble violently under Zhuowen's aura. Time passed slowly, and Zhuowen's aura became more and more powerful. Boom! Suddenly, an explosive sound burst out from Zhuowen's body. Then, his aura seemed to have undergone a transformation at this moment. It soared rapidly, and the surrounding air was stirred up by the powerful aura, rushing straight to the sky. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, which shone with an unprecedented light. At this moment, he only felt that his body was full of inexhaustible energy. He was very excited and surprised because at this moment, his body had evolved again. He had successfully advanced from the middle stage of the 8-star realm to the late stage of the 8-star realm. After Zhuowen had successfully advanced, he had transferred part of the power of the mountain range into the macro world. The original human body, Crepe Star Sovereign, and Xiao Hei, who had been healing in the macro world, immediately felt that this energy was extraordinary. They all went to absorb it. The benefits were obvious. Crepe Star Sovereign's injuries had healed quickly in a short time. Even his aura had become much more stable. Xiao Hei and the others also cried out in joy. They felt that the energy that had poured into the macro world was too refreshing. Their realms had been loosened. The original human body had only been absorbing for 15 minutes, and his original realm had been completely loosened. Then, his aura skyrocketed. Crepe Star Sovereign, Xiao Hei, and the others immediately noticed the abnormality of the original human body. Holy sh**t. Zhuo Wen's human true body actually broke through just like that. Isn't this a little too fast? Blackie cried out. I was only half a step away from the peak of the Lord of Creation realm. Now, with such a powerful energy guiding me, I naturally broke through from the late stage to the peak of the Lord of Creation realm. When the conditions are right, success will naturally follow. The original human body smiled. His expression was natural, and he did not feel too surprised. Everyone, quickly absorb it. There is still a lot of mountain range power. While my clone is accepting the inheritance, I will guide a small part of it into the macro world. This energy is very easy to disperse. Don't waste it, Zhuowen said in a low voice. Of course, after the original human body said this, he sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes to continue absorbing the mountain range power. He planned to break through to the Lord of Creation realm in one go. Xiao Hei cried out. He brought the Death Sacrifice Sword and Blood Immortal Sword and pounced into the mountain range power that had been guided over. Even Crepe Star Sovereign could not remain calm. He seized the opportunity to continuously absorb the mountain range power. This was energy that was many times more powerful than the energy of the heavenly Tao. It was very beneficial to them. Even Yin Wuxie and Ghost Plume had a share of the benefits. They were able to absorb this powerful energy that had not been easy to come by. Yin Wuxie and Ghost Plume smiled when they felt the benefits of the mountain range power. They looked at Zhuowen with eyes full of gratitude and admiration. Although they had been forced by Zhuowen to become his slaves, following Zhuowen, they had basically lived a very good life. Moreover, they could often enjoy the shared resources. This had caused their cultivation bases to rise steadily. Now that they had the opportunity to come into contact with such a vast amount of high-level energy, they felt that following Zhuowen was the wisest choice they had made in their lives. They were afraid that if Zhuowen wanted to drive them away now, they would not be happy. The weapon spirit of the heaven-splitting axe naturally sensed Zhuowen's little action, but he did not say anything. After all, Zhuowen had only guided a small part of the mountain range power into the macro world. It did not have much impact on Zhuowen's acceptance and completion of the inheritance. 3 days later, the specks of starlight on the surface of the mountain range behind Zhuowen had completely dimmed. Zhuowen had completely absorbed the mountain range power. Zhuowen's Pangu sacred body had made another breakthrough, evolving from the late stage of the 8-star realm to the peak of the 8-star realm. Everyone in the macro world had also benefited a lot. Among them, the original human body had successfully broken through to the early stage of the Lord of Creation realm, and his strength had undergone a transformation. Crepe Star Sovereign had not made a breakthrough, but he had reached the point of breaking through the earth barrier. He only needed an opportunity to directly advance from the late stage of the Lord of Creation realm to the peak of the Lord of Creation realm. Chapter 3397. Well, not bad. You have received the complete inheritance of Pangu, Axe Handle said with satisfaction. At this moment, Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes. The Pangu banner floating above his head turned into a stream of light and disappeared into his glabella. He was very excited. After receiving the complete inheritance of Pangu, not only did the quality of his Pangu sacred body improve, but the 5 ultimacies also changed. What made him even more excited was that he had a higher understanding of how to use the Pangu banner. It could be said that if he wanted to use the Pangu banner now, he no longer needed to rely on luck. He could use the Pangu banner according to his will to fight the enemy. However, using the Pangu banner consumed a lot of spiritual power. With his current spiritual power, using the Pangu banner once was a little difficult. This trump card was very powerful. It was comparable to his ultimate ultimacy, Pangu's shadow, or even stronger. However, whether it was the Pangu banner or Pangu's shadow, once used, the price was too high, even the price of one's life. Unless it was absolutely necessary, Zhuoan would not use it casually. Moreover, the Pangu banner originally had the function of nourishing the spiritual soul. Back then, Zhuoan could not control the Pangu banner, so the Pangu banner nourished his spiritual soul by itself. The progress was not fast. But now, he had full control of the Pangu banner. Naturally, he could stimulate the nourishing power of the Pangu banner to the maximum extent, so that his spiritual power was increasing at a rapid speed. As everyone knew, the cultivation of the spiritual soul was much more difficult than that of the way of heaven. However, Zhuoan, who had the Pangu banner, would not be slower than the cultivation of the way of heaven. It would even be faster than the cultivation of the way of heaven of ordinary cultivators. In addition to nourishing his spiritual soul, the Pangu banner was also like a city wall. It could resist any other energy that entered his spiritual soul. He had been possessed many times, but they were all destroyed by the Pangu banner. It was obvious that the Pangu banner was very harmful to the spiritual soul. Zhuoan stood up and cupped his hands to axe handle. He said gratefully, "Thank you for your help, Senior. Otherwise, I am afraid that it would be difficult for me to use the power of the whole mountain to strengthen myself and accept the complete inheritance completely." Zhuoan was very clear that it was the axe handle that was able to draw upon the power of the mountain range. "You don't have to be so polite. I'm just fulfilling my master's dying wish. You deserve all of this," Axe Handle said softly, his voice somewhat weak. Zhuoan felt that something was wrong. He could hear the weakness in the sound of the axe handle. Moreover, he also discovered that the light on the surface of the axe handle had become dim, and its aura was very weak. "Senior, you," Zhuoan said worriedly. "You don't have to worry about me. Didn't you want to hear about Master? Sit down first. I'll tell you about Master's origin and story," Axe Handle said in a deep voice. Zhuoan looked at the axe handle worriedly. He could feel that the aura of the axe handle was continuously declining. He seemed to have guessed something and sighed inwardly. Then, he followed Axe Handle's instruction and sat down. "My master's real name is not Pangu. He is just an ordinary member of the Pangu family. His real name is Panyu, and he was born not long ago. According to the calculation of the 100 domains, he might not even be a year old." Axe Handle sighed. "Wait. Senior Pangu, no, Senior Panyu is not even a year old. Moreover, he is just an ordinary member of the so-called Pangu family." Zhuoan interrupted Axe Handle, only feeling incredulous. Axe Handle's words were a bit too shocking, wasn't it? What a joke, that Panyu was just born, and he actually had the strength close to shattering heaven and earth. He could shatter this starry sky, split open heaven and earth, and form this starry sky. A mere child had this kind of strength. Then wouldn't the so-called adults of the so-called Pangu family all be heaven-shattering powerhouses? Axe Handle appeared very calm and continued, "I know that when you heard this, you definitely couldn't completely accept it for a while. In your starry sky, hasn't there always been a legend that only after shattering the heavens can one obtain great freedom? But what I'm about to say might be a blow to you. If you want to be truly free, shattering the heavens is only the first step. After you shatter the heavens, you can transcend this starry sky and reach the higher level of the 100 domains. I'll tell you the truth. Although there are a large number of beings below the heaven-shattering realm in places like the 100 domains, the majority of these beings are natives born in the 100 domains. They were accepted by the laws of the 100 outer realms. And you natives born in the starry sky fruit are outsiders. If your cultivation hasn't reached the heaven-shattering realm, you will be suppressed by the laws of the 100 domains and immediately die. In the 100 outer realms, each realm is controlled by a clan. These clans have unique bloodlines and are the true nobles of the 100 outer realms, the favored children of the heavens. The Pangu family is the ruler of one of the 100 domains. Their bloodline is noble, and the majority of their members have half-step heaven-shattering realm strength when they are born. There are even some geniuses who have natural phenomena when they are born, causing a sensation in many domains. And such monstrous geniuses have heaven-shattering realm cultivation when they are born. As they grow older, they don't even need to cultivate very hard, and their cultivation will still increase rapidly, even surpassing the heaven-shattering realm and entering the Great Freedom Mystery Realm. These are true geniuses. My master is wandering, and his talent is ordinary, so he was only half-step heaven-shattering realm when he was born. Oh right, the definition of age for beings in the 100 domains is different from the definition of your universe. They are only considered 1 year old after growing for an era. The lifespan of ordinary beings in the 100 domains is usually 100 eras. Only when they completely surpass the heaven-shattering realm will their lifespan increase again. Zhuowen was silent. He was really shocked by the description of the heaven-shattering axe spirit. If it was really as the heaven-shattering axe spirit said, and there were actually so many elites in the 100 domains outside this universe, then wasn't he a frog at the bottom of a well, and this universe was the bottom of the well that trapped that frog? Senior, how many years is the era you speak of? Zhuowen was very interested in the era mentioned by the heaven-shattering axe spirit. This was the first time he had heard of such a unit of time. An era is 84,290,000 years, and the lifespan of the starry sky you reside in is only 100 eras. After 100 eras, this universe will decline and collapse. Of course, with the intervention of the elites of the 100 domains, your universe won't be able to last for 100 eras. In fact, even 30 eras might be difficult. The axe spirit sighed. Senior, what do you mean by that? Zhuowen asked with a frown. This matter involves the secrets of the 100 domains. You haven't broken through the heaven-shattering realm yet, so knowing it won't do you any good. When you really break through the heaven-shattering realm and enter the 100 domains, you'll know at that time, the heaven-shattering axe spirit said helplessly. Zhuowen, you just have to remember that you have obtained Pangu's inheritance, and the blood of the Pangu clan flows in your body. If you really enter the 100 domains in the future, you have to be careful of the Xuannong clan, Heartless clan, and Alternate Ghost clan. You definitely can't expose your bloodline in the territories of these 3 clans. Otherwise, you'll be in big trouble. Chapter 3398. The Starry Sky Has Boundaries. Zhuowen nodded. He knew that the 3 clans mentioned by the heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit were most likely the culprits behind the Pangu clan's destruction. Also, increase your cultivation as soon as possible. The starry sky you're in is becoming more and more dangerous. At that time, if you're not strong enough, you won't be able to escape the calamity and will die. The heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit's voice grew weaker, and the light on the surface of the axe's handle grew dimmer. Zhuowen opened his mouth, and a trace of sorrow appeared in his eyes. He could feel the heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit's aura rapidly weakening. He knew that the heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit had used up too much energy to help him complete the Pangu inheritance. Now, the heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit was beginning to disappear due to the lack of energy. Senior, don't worry. I will increase my strength as soon as possible. Even if the Chaos Beast really brings a calamity, I will definitely not let it succeed. Zhuowen said seriously. Ah, Zhuowen, you don't understand what I mean. The Chaos Beast can't destroy your starry sky. It only wants to slaughter the living beings in the starry sky. It doesn't have the ability to destroy your starry sky. The real danger your starry sky faces isn't the Chaos Beast, but the 100 domains outside. In the eyes of the experts of the 100 domains outside, not to mention your starry sky, even the other more powerful starry skies are just slightly stronger fruits, the heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit said self-deprecatingly. What? The danger mainly comes from the 100 domains outside. Zhuowen's eyes narrowed. He finally understood what the heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit was worried about. It turned out that his main concern wasn't the Chaos Beast, but the 100 domains outside. However, Zhuowen found it strange that the heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit had mentioned the word fruit several times. In the eyes of the experts of the 100 domains outside, their vast starry sky had become a fruit. This was a bit too ridiculous. Seeing the axe's handle gradually dim, Zhuowen thought of the mysterious stone. The word Tai appeared on the surface of the mysterious stone, and it contained a cultivation method called the primordial chant. The starting point of this cultivation technique was very high, and one had to be at the heaven-breaking realm to cultivate it. He naturally thought that this cultivation technique was a cultivation technique that transcended this starry sky. However, the primordial chant in the Tai wordstone was incomplete, so he could only cultivate up to the 6th heaven-crushing transformation. If he really wanted to cultivate up to the 6th heaven-crushing transformation in the future, then he would have to find the remaining stones to obtain the remaining cultivation method. The heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit was very knowledgeable, and Zhuowen was completely clueless about this stone. Naturally, he wanted to ask the heaven-splitting axe's artifact spirit to see if it recognized this stone. Senior, do you recognize this stone? This stone contains a cultivation technique called the primordial grand mist technique. Do you know this cultivation technique? Zhuowen asked as he held the grand word stone in his palm. The heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit's originally weak voice became excited the instant it sensed the mysterious stone in Zhuowen's hand. Its weak voice also became louder. This is the primordial stone. You actually obtained such a supreme treasure. No, how could this starry sky have such a supreme treasure? The heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit was very excited, but it quickly calmed down. It reminded Zhuowen, you absolutely cannot expose this primordial stone to others in the future. This thing has too many implications, and it's related to the mysterious primordial era. If you go to the 100 domains in the future and this thing is exposed, countless experts in the 100 domains will be tempted and attack you. At that time, you will die without a burial ground. Remember, you absolutely cannot expose it, or there will be endless troubles. The heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit kept reminding Zhuowen. In the end, its voice dissipated, and the axe handle floating in the air collapsed into dust. Zhuowen looked at the destroyed axe handle and sighed softly in his heart. A wave of sadness and sorrow rose in his heart. Although he hadn't spent much time with the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit, during this time, the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit had done his best to help him perfect Pangu's inheritance. It could be said that the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit was half a teacher to him. Now that the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit had fallen, it would be a lie to say that he wasn't sad. Originally, Zhuowen wanted to ask the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit about the primordial era, but it was too late. The heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit had already collapsed. However, from the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit's frightened tone, he could tell that the primordial era seemed to be even more mysterious and powerful than the 100 domains. Speaking of which, Ma Yujie once said that he came from the primordial era. What kind of place is the primordial era? Zhuowen muttered to himself, and he couldn't help but think of Ma Yujie. From the first time he met Ma Yujie, Zhuowen couldn't see through the fatty. Now that he learned about the 100 domains and the primordial era from the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit, he couldn't see through the fatty. However, there was one thing he was sure of, and that was that Ma Yujie wasn't from this starry sky. What puzzled him was that if the fatty wasn't from this starry sky, but from the more mysterious and powerful primordial era, then why did he come to this starry sky? The primordial stone? Zhuowen's eyes narrowed as he recalled the primordial stone. From the shocked expression on the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit's face when it saw the primordial stone, Zhuowen knew that the primordial stone was absolutely a supreme treasure. Even if it was placed in a higher place like the 100 domains and the primordial era, it was absolutely an existence that would make others jealous. Ma Yujie came from a higher place, yet he lowered himself to come to this starry sky, so it was definitely because of the primordial stone. Thinking up to here, Zhuowen became even more vigilant. He suspected that Ma Yujie's strength was absolutely not as simple as it seemed on the surface, but the fatty had been suppressing his cultivation all along. Regardless of whether his guess was correct or not, he only knew that he absolutely couldn't get too involved with Ma Yujie in the future. Otherwise, he would really be cheated to the point that not even his bones would be left. It's time to leave this place. Zhuowen turned around and looked at the dim mountain range behind him, and he sighed endlessly in his heart. When he first entered this place, this mountain range was as bright as the starry sky, flickering with sparkling and translucent starlight. But now, it was pitch black, and the entire mountain range was filled with darkness and deathly stillness. Zhuowen took out the space-time roulette, jumped onto it, and rushed out of the mountain range. Long before he received the complete Pangu's inheritance, the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit had already passed him a starry sky chart. The starry sky chart given to him by the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit could be considered the most complete starry sky chart he had obtained so far, and it included most of the places in this starry sky. From the starry sky chart, he could see that the mountain range he was currently in was at the edge of the northeast region of the starry sky. Zhuowen didn't follow the heaven-splitting axe artifact spirit suggestion and flew towards the southwest. Instead, he continued to fly towards the northeast. He wanted to see if the starry sky really had a boundary. Chapter 3399. Zhuowen frowned as he looked at the misty barrier in front of him. After leaving the mountain range, he headed northeast. In less than 2 hours, he arrived in front of the mist barrier. The mist barrier in front of him contained some kind of extremely powerful rule power that was not inferior to the rule power of this starry sky. It prevented the creatures in the starry sky from passing through the mist barrier. Zhuowen had tried many ways to break through the mist barrier, but they all ended in failure. One had to know that his Pangu sacred body had evolved to the peak of 8 stars, and he had obtained the complete Pangu inheritance. His strength was much stronger than before, but he still could not break through the mist barrier. This showed how strong the mist barrier was. It's incredible. This mist barrier is not naturally formed. It's a man-made seal that surpasses the heaven ascension level. Zhuowen carefully observed the bewildering fog maze with a solemn expression. He could see that the mist barrier was extraordinary and knew that it was man-made. He was sure that no formation Dao master in this starry sky could set up such a powerful seal. This kind of sealing method was seriously too advanced. Even Zhuowen found it somewhat difficult to understand. Clearly, the seal had been set up by a powerful divine formation master from outside the starry sky. The purpose of this seal was to trap all the living beings in the starry sky and prevent them from leaving the starry sky. Zhuowen looked at the mist barrier in front of him. After he made a mark here, he left without hesitation. He knew that under this starry sky, there should be similar mist barriers everywhere, no matter where it was. With his current level of formation Dao, he was far from being able to break through the seal on the mist barrier. However, Zhuowen knew that there was one person who had successfully broken through the mist barrier. It was the Pill Array Immortal Master, the number 1 Pill Array Dao Master in the Xian Mi Heavenly Region. He had read the corresponding records in the True Pill Array record. Back then, he could not understand the formation Dao lines that were recorded at the end. Now that he had seen the seal on the mist barrier, he realized that it was somewhat similar. Perhaps, the Pill Array Immortal Master had studied the mist barrier countless years ago. However, the runes in the True Alchemy Array record were not complete. They were only 2/3 complete. Later on, the Pill Array Immortal Monarch mysteriously disappeared. Zhuowen believed that the Pill Array Immortal Monarch had finally broken through the fog maze and left this space alone. At that time, the Alchemy Array Immortal Monarch had left in a hurry and had not completed the remaining 1/3 of the formation runes. Zhuowen planned to properly study the True Pill Array records this time. His Array Dao level had already reached a certain bottleneck. If he wanted to continue making breakthroughs, he would have to study the complex Array Dao lines recorded at the end of the True Pill Array records. As long as he could study the Array Dao patterns thoroughly, his Array Dao level would improve further. When he came to the boundary again, he would be more confident in breaking the seal. Ghost Plume, help me control the spacetime roulette. I need to go into seclusion for a while. Follow the star chart I gave you and return to the primitive heaven realm. Zhuoan summoned Ghost Plume from the outside world. After instructing Ghost Plume on how to control the spacetime roulette, he went into seclusion. He had originally planned to let Xiao He control the spacetime roulette, but Xiao He had gone into seclusion ever since he had obtained the divine artifacts. He had told Duan Ling Tian not to disturb him. Therefore, Duan Ling Tian had no choice but to let Ghost Plume handle the trivial matter of controlling the divine artifacts. Zhuoan had originally wanted to go directly to the Xian Mi heavenly domain. However, the primitive heaven realm was closer to this place. Moreover, there was a huge barrier between the primitive heaven realm and the Xian Mi heavenly domain. If he wanted to go directly to the Xian Mi heavenly domain, he would have to go around the primitive heaven realm. It would take him more than 10 times the distance, which was too slow. Therefore, he planned to go back along the original path and return to the Xian Mi heavenly domain through the mysterious passage between the primitive heaven realm and the Xian Mi heavenly domain. Moreover, before returning to the Xian Mi heavenly domain, he planned to make a trip to the Slaughter Heaven realm. With his current strength, he could take his acquaintances and leave the Slaughter Heaven realm. After Zhuoan took out the True Pill Array record, he went into seclusion to comprehend it. Time passed by slowly. Soon, half a year had passed. Zhuoan, who was still in seclusion, noticed the spacetime roulette shaking violently and couldn't help but wake up. With a wave of his sleeve, he removed the restrictions around him and asked Ghost Plume with a frown, "Ghost Plume, what's going on? Why did the spacetime roulette stop?" "Master, we have reached the border of the primitive heaven realm. However, there is a powerful spacetime collapse at the border of the primitive heaven realm. This lowly one wasn't paying attention and accidentally touched a spacetime collapse. I almost fell into it," Ghost Plume said with cold sweat. Zhuoan looked around and found that the surrounding area was full of spacetime collapses. His eyes revealed a strange look. He didn't expect that there would be so many spacetime collapses at the border of the primitive heaven realm. From the distribution of these spacetime collapses, he could see that these spacetime collapses were man-made. It should be the experts of the primitive heaven realm who created these spacetime collapses to prevent experts from other heavenly domains from illegally entering the primitive heaven realm. You go into the outside world first. I will control the spacetime roulette now, Zhuoan said. Ghost Plume felt as if he had been granted amnesty and quickly entered the outside world. Zhuoan began to control the spacetime roulette and quickly advanced in this area. The spacetime roulette itself contained powerful spacetime rules. In addition, Zhuoan was proficient in using the spacetime power. Although the surrounding spacetime collapses were terrifying, Zhuoan was able to avoid them without any mishap. After avoiding the last spacetime collapse, he finally arrived safely in the primitive heaven realm. After entering the primitive heaven realm, he found that the place he had entered was actually the main city of a tribe. This surprised him. He didn't expect that there would be a tribe building at the border of the primitive heaven realm. This place was full of spacetime collapses and was very dangerous. He really didn't know what this tribe was thinking. However, when he saw the slightly dilapidated main city in front of him, he was speechless. This tribe was too weak. The number of tribesmen was pitifully small, and the main city was even more dilapidated. Even the array formation was very low level. At this moment, all the tribesmen in the main city were looking at Zhuoan, who was controlling the spacetime roulette, in disbelief. This was because they had just discovered that the person in front of them had rushed out from a spacetime collapse. They had lived here for many years and knew how terrifying spacetime collapse was. Even the Master of Heaven Realm would die if he fell into a spacetime collapse. Chapter 3400. Elephant Monkey Tribe. Zhuoan put away the spacetime roulette and landed in the main city. He noticed that the members of this tribe looked like apes, but their mouths were like elephant trunks, long and flat. When they spoke, their eyes narrowed, making them look wretched and annoying. "My lord, this old man is the Elephant Monkey Tribe's chief, Hu Xiong. May I know why you have come to our tribe?" When Zhuoan landed in the main city of the tribe, an elderly man quickly walked out from within the tribe. He held a walking stick and quickly walked in front of a young tribesman. His speed was so fast that Zhuowen wondered if this old man was really a cripple. Which part of the primitive heaven domain is this? Zhuowen asked. The primitive heaven domain was very vast, even bigger than the Xian Mi heavenly domain. Although he had obtained the star map of this place from the heaven-splitting Axis spirit, the star map was only a rough estimate. However, the star chart only recorded the approximate location of the entire starry sky. There was no detailed record of the various heavens. Although Zhuowen had obtained the star map of the primitive heaven domain from the Phoenix People's Saintus, it was not complete. It only provided the route to the Phoenix people. As for the other parts of the primitive heaven domain, there was no record of it at all. This was also why Zhuowen was unfamiliar with this place when he landed in the tribe of the Elephant Monkey tribe. Seeing Zhuowen's confused face, the chief of the Elephant Monkey tribe, Hu Xiong, knew that this mysterious expert was not here to deal with the Elephant Monkey tribe. He must have accidentally lost his way. My lord, this is the southernmost border of the primitive heaven domain. Our Elephant Monkey clan, on the other hand, has been living here for generations. The patriarch of the Elephant Monkey tribe, Hu Xiong, took out a jade slip from his spiritual ring and respectfully handed it to Zhuowen, saying, "My lord, this is the map of the southernmost region of the primitive heavenly domain. This old man has no use for it, but since my lord needs it, I'll give it to you." Zhuowen took the jade slip and glanced at the star chart in it. He was slightly disappointed. The prehistoric heaven realm was very vast, and there were many natural danger zones in many areas. If one did not have a star map, it would be very easy to lose one's way, and one would be unable to reach one's destination. With Zhuowen's speed, it was actually not difficult for him to traverse the entire great desolate heaven domain. However, he knew that if he did not find the right direction, it would be useless no matter how fast he was. At that time, it would be a waste of time. The star map that Hu Xiong had given him was simply too small. He estimated that the star map in his hand was probably only 1/1000th of the southern region of the prehistoric heaven realm. Just by relying on this star map, it would be difficult for him to even go to the Earth Shaman tribe in the center of the heaven domain, let alone find the secret passage that he had used to enter the primitive heaven domain. The range of this star map is too small. It's not very useful to me, Zhuowen said with a frown. Hu Xiong was not surprised. He said respectfully, "My lord, in the extreme south region, Shark Snake City is the largest city in this region. It is controlled by the Great Shark Snake clan. Inside the Shark Snake City, there is a teleportation formation that leads directly to the Shaman God City. Other than that, a famous clan like the Shark Snake clan also has a more complete star map. My lord, you can go to the Shark Snake City to take a look. Perhaps you will find something." Zhuowen looked at the jade slip again. Indeed, he had found the location of the Shark Snake City in the jade slip. It was not too far away from here. "Oh, there is a teleportation formation that leads directly to the Shaman God City, but I heard that the Shaman God City has been destroyed. Can the teleportation formation still be used?" Zhuowen asked doubtfully. "My lord, it seems like you have not been in the prehistoric heaven domain during this period of time, so you might not know. The Shaman God City has been rebuilt. It is said that not long after the Shaman God City was destroyed, 2 experts who claimed to be from the Shaman tribe descended. They gathered the surviving disciples of the Shaman tribe and rebuilt the Shaman God City." Hu Xiong was a little suspicious that Zhuowen did not know about this, but he did not think too much about it. "Oh, there are still experts in the Shaman tribe? Weren't they all wiped out by that Long Wen?" Zhuowen said in surprise. "My lord, you really know how to joke. Which of the top 10 tribes of the prehistoric heaven domain has not been passed down for countless years before they finally reached their current heights? Such a powerful tribe has developed for countless years and countless experts. Naturally, there will be many talented geniuses. Take the Shaman tribe as an example. Some of the past sacred lords of the Shaman tribe have broken through the peak of the Master of Heaven and stepped into the half-step to heaven-breaking realm. However, these experts have always been focused on cultivation. In order to reach the highest realm, they all abdicated in advance, left the prehistoric heaven domain, and went to the heavenly secret realm. The two mysterious experts who came this time are said to be the two previous sacred lords of the shaman tribe. They heard that the shaman tribe was almost wiped out, so they returned from the heavenly secret realm. It is not just the shaman tribe. It is said that even the past clan leaders of the Corpse Gowl tribe and the Phoenix people could not hold back and returned from the heavenly secret realm. It is said that they are all investigating Long Wen. Although Long Wen died from self-explosion, these experts obviously do not want to let him go. They want to find out the force behind him and exterminate his tribe. But the strange thing is that Long Wen's origin is very mysterious. Because Long Wen did not expose the aura of his tribe until his death, people can't figure out his tribe at all. Hu Xiong sighed as he said, speaking of which, Long Wen is really powerful. It is said that he was born in a small tribe, but he could do such a magnificent thing. I really admire him. Hearing this, Zhuowen's expression changed slightly, and he became serious. He had made such a big noise in the prehistoric heaven domain. He was afraid that he could not hide it in the heavenly secret realm for too long. In the future, when he entered the heavenly secret realm, he had to be very careful of the real old experts of the shaman tribe and the Corpse Gowl tribe. He knew that most of them should be at the half-step to heaven-breaking realm, old monsters that could not be underestimated. Fortunately, his current identity was that of self-explosion, so those old guys would not pay attention to him. Instead, they would pay attention to Green Hat. After all, Green Hat was not simple. He had a big secret, and as long as he was not a fool, he could see it. After listening to Hu Xiong's account, Zhuowen decided to go to the Jiao Snake City, and go to the newly built Shaman God City through the teleportation formation there. When he reached the Shaman God City, he planned to make a trip to the Phoenix people. He wanted to find the Grand Elder Mu Yu and ask about Mu Chenshue's whereabouts. Of course, the pain that the Grand Elder Mu Yu and the others had inflicted on Mu Chenshue, Zhuowen would also let them have a good taste of it. He would not tolerate it. Thank you for this time. This is your reward. Zhuowen casually took out a pill and threw it to Hu Xiong. Then, he took out the space-time roulette and flew toward the Jiao Snake City. Hu Xiong did not even see how Zhuowen left. He found that Zhuowen had already disappeared. He lamented in his heart that Zhuowen was really a terrifying expert. He was glad that he did not say anything wrong to provoke such an expert. However, the moment Hu Xiong saw the pill in his hand, he felt as if he had been hit by a heavy blow. Because the pill in his hand was actually a distant Dao pill. This pill could help a peak heavenly Dao master to smoothly advance to Dao Yuan master in a short time. It was a divine pill. Hu Xiong was already a peak heavenly Dao master. However, he always felt that there was some gap between him and Dao Yuan master, and he could not break through. He had gone to the Jiao Snake City several times to purchase distant Dao pills. However, the price of distant Dao pills was really too high. He did not have the wealth at all, so his cultivation level had been stagnant. But now, he had only told Zhuowen some information that he knew, and he had received such a precious divine pill. Hu Xiong only felt like he was dreaming. Thank you, sir. Chapter 3401. Jiao Snake Tribe. The Jiao Snake City was quite far from the Elephant Monkey Tribe. However, this distance was nothing to Zhuowen. After 6 hours, Zhuowen arrived near the Jiao Snake City on the space-time roulette. He paid the corresponding heavenly law origin crystals and entered the Jiao Snake City without a hitch. Although the Jiao Snake Tribe was a large tribe, it could only be considered at the bottom among the many large tribes in the prehistoric heaven domain. The Jiao Snake City naturally could not be compared to the Shaman God City. After Zhuowen entered the Jiao Snake City, he sensed for a while before walking towards the core hall of the Jiao Snake Tribe. With Zhuowen's strength, it was not difficult for him to enter the core hall of the Jiao Snake Tribe without anyone noticing. In the core hall of the Jiao Snake Tribe, the tribe leader, Jiao Yu, was gathering the upper echelons of the tribe to discuss something. In the huge core hall, there were more than 10 people including Jiao Yu and the upper echelons. Their voices were not loud, but the discussion was especially intense. Tribe leader, you can't take the risk. You also know that the young miss has been poisoned by the absolute poison. Even if you go to Suicide Valley as a hostage, the Absolute Poison Master might not give you the antidote. This is the Absolute Poison Master's scheme. Tribe leader, you can't fall for it. One of the upper echelons stood up and said to Jiao Yu in an agitated voice. Jiao Yu's gaze was grave. He revealed a conflicted and hesitant expression and sighed softly. No. As long as there is a chance of survival, I have to save Ninga. I owe her too much since she was young. I can't let her die like this. Tribe leader, please consider this at length. You are the tribe leader of the Jiao Snake tribe and the pillar of the tribe. If you leave the tribe, there will be no one to lead the tribe. Immediately, the other 10 people in the core hall knelt on the ground and advised Jiao Yu to consider this at length and not be rash. The entire core hall was so quiet that one could hear a pin drop. Other than Jiao Yu, everyone else knelt on the ground. Even Jiao Yu frowned slightly and revealed a conflicted expression. He did not say a word. You are the tribe leader of the Jiao Snake tribe? In this oppressive and quiet environment, a voice suddenly broke the silence. The 10 upper echelons of the Jiao Snake tribe who were kneeling on the ground stiffened and immediately stood up. They looked coldly at the entrance of the hall and the figure who was slowly walking in. Jiao Yu also looked at the Jiao Yu and Jiao Yu. He did not notice. If this person had not deliberately made a sound, he would not have noticed him. Who are you? Jiao Yu sized up the black-clothed young man in front of him, his eyes filled with doubt and vigilance. He dared to guarantee that he had never seen this person before. Furthermore, this person was clearly not a member of the Shark-Snake clan. Who I am is not important. I would like to borrow your mermaid snake race's teleportation formation. I have some matters to attend to in the sorcerer race's sorcerer god city. It's a little rushed. Zhuo Wen said with a faint smile. Yu tribe. Yu clan's Jiao tribe. Yu tribes Yu. You want to use our Jiao tribe's Jiao Yu. You have committed a great crime by barging into the core hall of our tribe. Don't waste your breath on him. Since he dared to barge into the main hall, he is not a kind person. Take him down. The upper echelons of the Jiao Snake tribe did not wait for Jiao Yu to speak. They rushed towards Zhuowen, intending to capture him alive. Unfortunately, not long after they arrived at Zhuowen's side, they discovered that their bodies were motionless, and they were fixed in midair. They could clearly feel that the surrounding space-time had completely frozen at this moment. Both time and space had come to a complete standstill. The black-robed youth walked past the upper echelons calmly and arrived in front of Jiao Yu. When Jiao Yu saw Zhuowen's actions, his pupils shrank. He could not believe it. The upper echelons of the Jiao Snake tribe were all masters of creation. Even he, the tribe leader, would not have an easy time dealing with these masters of creation. He might have to pay a price to defeat them. However, this ridiculously young youth before them did not move at all. Instead, the upper echelon of the Jiao Snake race froze in midair. Jiao Yu naturally sensed the terrifying space-time force surging around the young man. He knew that the young man was relying on this terrifying space-time force to restrain these high-level experts. Cold sweat gradually dripped down Jiao Yu's forehead. He could feel that this person was stronger than him, and not just by a little, but by a lot. Jiao Yu took a deep breath and asked in a low voice, "You were sent by the deadly poison master to kill me?" Zhuowen said somewhat impatiently, "I don't know the so-called deadly poison master you speak of. I've already said my purpose for coming to your Jiao Snake City. I'm in a hurry, so I need to use your Jiao Snake race's transportation formation." Jiao Yu took a deep look at Zhuowen and sighed, "Fellow Daoist, since you want to use our teleportation formation, that's fine. However, can you release my clansman first?" Zhuowen nodded and snapped his fingers. The upper echelon of the Jiao Snake race who were trapped in space-time immediately regained their freedom. However, after they regained their freedom, they all distanced themselves from Zhuowen. Their eyes were filled with fear. "Fellow Daoist, if you're only using my race's transportation formation, I'll get my subordinates to bring you to the location of the transportation formation. I'm Jiao Yu of the Jiao Snake race. I still have some important matters to discuss with them, so I can't accompany you." After Jiao Yu excused himself from Zhuowen, he He chose a skinny man from the upper echelon behind him and got him to bring Zhuowen to the location of the transportation formation of the Jiao snake race. The skinny man brought Zhuowen to the location of the transportation formation. This was an underground secret chamber. The secret chamber was rather large, and in the center of the secret chamber was a dim and lightless formation. From the direction of these formation lines, Zhuowen could tell that this was indeed a rather powerful transportation formation. "Sir, this is the transportation formation of our Jiao snake race. We've just connected to the newly built Witch God City, so you can use it without worry." The skinny man was clearly rather afraid of Zhuowen. He spoke respectfully and carefully. Furthermore, as the skinny man spoke, he personally took out a heavenly Dao origin crystal and placed it in the openings around the formation. Not long after, the originally dim teleportation array lit up. "Sir, my clansman instructed me to bring this heavenly Dao origin crystal. The cost of this transportation will be paid by our Jiao snake race. You can use it without worry," the skinny man said with an earnest smile. Zhuowen nodded. The leader of the Jiao snake race was rather considerate. He took out a jade bottle and said, "There's an antidote in this jade bottle. It might be of some use to your leader. Please pass this jade bottle to your leader on my behalf." The skinny man took the jade bottle and hurriedly thanked Zhuowen. However, Zhuowen could see the indifference in the skinny man's eyes. He didn't mind either. He stepped into the transportation formation and was enveloped by a blazing light. Soon after, he disappeared from the transportation formation. The skinny man watched as Zhuowen disappeared into the light of the transportation formation. Then, he looked at the jade bottle in his hand and revealed a hesitant expression. In the end, he decided to pass the jade bottle to the leader and let him make the decision. Chapter 3402. Holy Maiden of the Demon Region. The Patriarch and the other upper echelons were arguing non-stop. The Patriarch insisted on going to the Suicide Valley. "Patriarch, this jade bottle was left for you by the Lord who just left." The skinny man suddenly opened his mouth and handed over the jade bottle that Zhuowen had given him to Jiao Yu. Jiao Yu took the jade bottle and frowned. "What's inside this jade bottle?" "It's an antidote pill. Before that lord left, he said that the antidote pill in this jade bottle can cure the poison in young Miss's body." The skinny man still repeated Zhuowen's words. "Cure the poison in young Miss's body? What kind of joke is this? Young Miss is poisoned by a heaven-level poison. How could an ordinary antidote pill be able to cure it? Although this lord is strong, he is not a pill master after all, so he does not understand." "That's right. This senior is strong, but that does not mean that his pill Dao is also strong. Or rather, he does not know anything about pill Dao, and this antidote pill is also casually taken out, right?" In the Great Hall, all the experts in the upper echelons laughed. Even the skinny man who brought back the antidote pill was mocked. The skinny man was very embarrassed. If he had known that he would be mocked, he would not have taken out the antidote pill. It was too embarrassing. Jiao Yu opened the bottle stopper, and immediately, a powerful medicinal power gushed out, forming a multicolored light that filled the hall. What a strong medicinal power! This is probably a heavenly pill. If this was an antidote pill, then it would definitely be a heavenly pill. The dozen or so higher-ups who were originally mocking him were immediately shocked by the medicinal power. They stared at the gushing multicolored light, their eyes filled with disbelief. Jiao Yu's eyes also revealed an excited look. He knew that with this heavenly pill, he would have a way to cure the poison in his daughter's body. At this moment, Jiao Yu was filled with gratitude towards Zhuowen. Zhuowen slowly opened his eyes, and the blazing light in front of him completely dissipated. He discovered that he had already arrived at a bustling street. The streets were bustling with people, and they were filled with foreign experts. Zhuowen looked around and realized that the surroundings were unfamiliar to him. However, from the discussions of the foreign race experts around him, he knew that this was the rebuilt Shaman God City. "What are you daydreaming about? Hurry up and leave." The sorcerer tribe disciple beside the teleportation formation saw that Zhuowen was in a daze and spoke rudely. Zhuowen came back to his senses and left the teleportation array. After entering the place where Pangu fell, He had completely removed his disguise, so he had now returned to his original appearance, not the appearance of the dragon rune. If he appeared in the new witch god city with the appearance of Long Wen, it would probably cause a huge commotion. As Zhuowen scanned the entire sorcerer god city with his spiritual force, he could not help but nod inwardly. The new sorcerer god city was several times larger than the original one, and it was even more luxurious. Furthermore, the witch god city had become even more sturdy. Zhuowen could sense that the interior of the witch god city should be protected by an array formation that was even more powerful than before. Zhuowen was not in a hurry to leave the witch god city. Instead, he found the busiest restaurant in the city and casually ordered a few jugs of wine. The main reason he had come to the restaurant was to gather some information. Most of the foreign race experts in the restaurant were not very powerful, but they were very interested in gossip and would often discuss the recent events in the restaurant. Zhuowen sat there for several hours. What made him speechless was that most of the discussions in the restaurant were about the dragon rune. It had been so long, but the popularity of this matter had not died down. It was clear how influential this matter was. In addition, Zhuowen also heard some news about the Green Hat. It was said that the two sorcerer tribe mighty figures who had rebuilt the witch god city were Wu Jian and Wu Jimiao. These two sorcerer tribe mighty figures had returned to the primitive celestial domain mainly to investigate the Green Hat. Later on, they really did find the Green Hat and joined forces with the half-step mighty figures from the Corpse Gowl tribe, the Phoenix people, and other major tribes to kill the Green Hat. Unfortunately, the Green Hat was too powerful. Although it was severely injured, it still managed to severely injure several half-step heaven-crushing mighty figures and escape. Hearing this, Zhuowen's eyes lit up. He knew that the Green Hat must have been severely injured. With the Green Hat's personality, it rarely did things like escape. Zhuowen rubbed his chin and muttered to himself, "It seems that the explosion of Pangu's shadowback then had a big impact on the Green Hat." In addition, there was another piece of news that completely attracted his attention. This news was about the demon realm. It was said that the ruler of the demon realm, Donghuang Tai, had recently taken in a goddaughter and made her the saintess of the demon realm. This news was extremely shocking in the Xian Mi heavenly domain and the primitive celestial domain. Because the demon realm had only been established not long ago, its foundation might not be comparable to the Xian Mi heavenly domain and the primitive celestial domain. However, Donghuang Tai was simply too powerful and controlled many great sorcerer corpses. The Xian Mi heavenly domain and the primitive celestial domain did not dare to act rashly. Even so, the demon realm had never made a saintess. But now, Donghuang Tai had actually made a saintess of the demon realm abnormal. This naturally attracted countless attention. Moreover, many experts were very curious about the identity of the saintess of the demon realm. However, the identity of the saintess of the demon realm was very mysterious. Moreover, she rarely showed herself, so there was no way to investigate her background. Moreover, the reason why this saintess had attracted so much interest was that this saintess had followed the demon realm's diplomatic mission to the primitive celestial domain and paid a visit to the Phoenix people. During the visit, the saintess of the demon realm attacked and killed the Phoenix people's Grand Elder Mu Yu and Third Elder and Yang with a single move. The entire Phoenix people were shocked. Even the Grand Elder of the Phoenix people could not stand it. He planned to capture the saintess of the demon realm and make her pay with her life. In the end, Donghuang Tai appeared. The Grand Elder of the Phoenix people, who had come down from the heaven-accessing secret land, was very afraid of Donghuang Tai. In the end, he let the saintess of the demon realm go. However, the Grand Elder of the Phoenix people and Donghuang Tai obviously had some substantial communication. Otherwise, the Grand Elder of the Phoenix people would not have let the matter go so easily. Zhuowen was surprised. Before returning to the Xian Mi heavenly domain, he had planned to personally go to the Phoenix people and directly capture Grand Elder Mu Yu and Third Elder and Yang. Now that these two people had been killed by the saintess of the demon realm, wouldn't there be no clues about Mu Chenxue? Of course, Zhuowen had previously captured Feng Leluo, the clan leader of the Phoenix people, alive. Moreover, Feng Leluo was still imprisoned in his macro world. However, Feng Leluo was not very clear about Mu Chunshue's whereabouts. It was said that the Grand Elder had taken Mu Chunshue to the old site of the Heavenly Armor Star, intending to find the origin of Mu Chunshue's bloodline. Chapter 3403. Zhuowen was sure that Feng Leluo was not lying. In order to confirm whether Feng Leluo was lying or not, he had searched her soul. Feng Leluo was severely injured because of that. She was still in a daze and her mind was not clear. He knew that the only people who knew about Mu Chunshue's whereabouts were the Grand Elder Mu Yu and the Third Elder and Yang of the Phoenix people. After all, they were the ones who took Mu Chunshue away. Only the two of them knew how Mu Chunshue went missing. Let's go to the Phoenix people and take a look. Perhaps the deaths of Grand Elder Mu Yu and Third Elder and Yang are just rumors. Zhuowen gritted his teeth. He did not give up. He decided to go to the Phoenix people and take a look. Only then would he be satisfied. Suddenly, the noisy restaurant quieted down. The experts of the foreign races in the restaurant all stopped making noise and looked at the sky outside the restaurant. Zhuowen looked out, and he was shocked to see an incomparably huge flying divine tool hovering in the sky. The flying divine artifact was oval-shaped. It was 1/3 the size of Sorcerer God City. It floated in the sky above Sorcerer God City like a dark cloud, causing most of Sorcerer God City to fall into darkness. The moment the flying divine artifact appeared, a group of people walked out of the inner city of Sorcerer God City. At the front of the group, a man wearing a dark brown silk robe caught Zhuowen's attention. This man was tall and slender, and he was wearing a large silk robe and a large hood on his head. The man's aura was very strange. It gave people a feeling that he was sometimes powerful and sometimes ordinary. It was a feeling that was very hard to grasp. Fear filled Zhuowen's eyes when he saw the figure. Although the person's aura was erratic, Zhuowen could sense that the person was very powerful, even terrifying. There were two experts of the sorcerer tribe on each side of the long-robed man. The skin color of the two sorcerer tribe members was completely different. One of them was light blue, while the other was fiery red. Their auras were also completely different. One was extremely cold, while the other was extremely hot. These two people's auras are much more powerful than Wu Shenya's. They should be the two sorcerer tribe experts who came down from the heavenly secret realm. They're both half a step away from the heavenly secret realm. Zhuowen narrowed his eyes as he looked at the long-robed man. He could tell that Wu Ji Yang and Wu Ji Miao were very cautious as they faced the long-robed man. Even the smiles on their faces were polite. He knew that this long-robed man was definitely a half-step heaven-crushing cultivator. Looks like the lord of the demon region, Donghuang Taiyi, has already reached an agreement with the two experts of the witch clan. Speaking of which, Donghuang Taiyi is really good to the Holy Maiden of the Demon Realm. For the sake of the Holy Maiden of the Demon Realm, he personally came to the Sorcerer God City to discuss with the two almighty figures of the Sorcerer tribe. In the restaurant, someone sighed and revealed the identity of the long-robed man. Zhuowen looked deeply at the long-robed man. His heart trembled slightly. He had not expected this guy to be the lord of the demon region, Donghuang Taiyi. Speaking of which, when the 9-level pagoda had appeared and Donghuang Taiyi had broken out of the seal, he had been present. However, he had escaped too quickly and had not seen Donghuang Taiyi's true face. Now, he had actually seen him in the Sorcerer God City. Zhuowen did not pay much attention to Donghuang Taiyi. After all, he had never interacted with such a person before. Moreover, he was not interested in the Holy Maiden of the Demon region. What he was really interested in now was the specific whereabouts of his wife, Mu Chunshue. Look, the Holy Maiden of the Demon region has come out. It looks like the Phoenix people have really compromised and released the Holy Maiden of the Demon region. Suddenly, the crowd became excited and the surrounding atmosphere became very lively. Everyone was looking at a beautiful figure in the group that had boarded the flying divine artifact. This beautiful figure silently stood beside Donghuang Taiyi. Her beautiful eyes were calm and there was a thin veil hanging from the corner of her mouth. This veil was very mysterious. It was releasing a variety of colors, and it actually had the effect of blocking divine sense. When everyone used their divine sense to look at the Holy Maiden's appearance, all they saw was a dense fog. Zhuowen unintentionally glanced at the Holy Maiden of the demon region. His body suddenly froze and he suddenly stood up. Zhuowen's strange behavior did not attract the attention of the other experts in the restaurant because there were people in the restaurant who were even worse than him. They only laughed at Zhuowen's lack of composure. Zhuowen's eyes were tightly fixed on the Holy Maiden of the demon region standing beside Donghuang Tai. More accurately, he was staring at the Holy Maiden's back. This was because the feeling this back gave him was too familiar. It was a back that he would never forget in his life. Chen Shui. She is Chen Shui. Zhuowen excitedly walked out of the restaurant. At this moment, Donghuang Tai nodded at Wu Ji-yang and Wu Ji-miao on the flying divine artifact. He activated the flying divine artifact and instantly disappeared from Witch God City. Donghuang Tai's flying divine artifact was too fast. It was as if he had jumped through space. In the blink of an eye, he had disappeared from Witch God City. However, the moment Donghuang Tai and the others left, Zhuowen instantly flew out of Witch God City and chased after Donghuang Tai. This guy is a little stupid. Is he planning to chase after the people from the demon region? Could it be that he has been mesmerized by the Holy Maiden of the demon region? I think so. Didn't you see the way this fool looked at the Holy Maiden? His eyes were fixed on her. He is really lustful. Isn't he afraid that the people from the demon region will kill him? Zhuowen's actions of chasing out of Witch God City were naturally known by the entire city. Everyone laughed at him, thinking that Zhuowen was a toad lusting after a swan. After an hour, Zhuowen came to a stop. His face was a little pale. This was because he had lost Donghuang Tai and the others. He had to admit that Donghuang Tai's flying divine artifact was not simple. It was definitely a top-notch Great Heaven-grade flying divine artifact. It was much stronger than most Great Heaven-grade flying divine artifacts. Zhuowen's space-time roulette was very ordinary. Its speed was probably not even comparable to the average Great Heaven-grade flying divine artifact. It was not surprising that he had lost track of it. Zhuowen stopped in his tracks. His eyes flickered. He felt that the Holy Maiden of the demon region's back was too similar to Mu Chunxue. Could it be that the Holy Maiden of the demon region was Mu Chunxue? When he thought of this possibility, Zhuowen suddenly laughed at himself. He felt that it was not very possible. After all, Mu Chunxue was a human. She was fundamentally different from the demon region. He did not believe that Donghuang Tai would make a human the Holy Maiden of the demon region. However, the Holy Maiden of the demon region's back kept lingering in his mind. He could not get rid of it. I'd better go check out the Phoenix people. You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.